It is a Monday, back once again, and admittedly, heat advisory. How about that heat advisory for the next 2 days for Colts camp? But Mother Nature, I've decided, here's the deal. Mother Nature is a Colts fan. This we know. I don't know about necessarily, for factually. I'm sure somebody can go back and point to several times where there has been contrary to that in terms of things getting a little bit crazy with the weather. But a little bit of a reprieve for Colts camp to start this week here at Grand Park in Westfield, which is where we are for this Colts camp in week number. What are we in, Eddie? Is this week number 2 of Colts camp?
I think, well, it's an interesting point, Jake, because they didn't start till last Wednesday? So
Yeah, so I mean, it's still within a week, but it's week number 2. We ripped off the page of the calendar for the week, right? And so as a result, the Colts are back on the practice field. Now, let me get you up to speed on what took place this morning. The biggest being that Anthony Richardson went out. This was big news. Anthony Richardson went out, and as they were warming up his first throw, he grabbed the football and he threw it in the dirt. But it was intentional. He was kind of horsing around. So you can make the argument if you like. If you think that Daniel Jones is the guy, then there's your point about Anthony Richardson. But all the quarterbacks working today, practice getting underway, and there was rain overnight, and so as a result, it was much cooler in Grand Park than what is expected, certainly over the course of when we're doing this show. I think heat index over 100 degrees today and tomorrow, and we'll see how that impacts and what exactly goes on with the Colts for that. But that is the schedule for today, just that morning practice. And then after that, it will be meetings and et cetera. Then tomorrow back on the practice field at 10 o'clock in the morning. And as for the Colts quarterback battle, if you will, I think when you look at it, and J.J. Watt had an interesting post, the former Houston Texan great, over the weekend where he said, people need to quit sending out videos of every play during training camps because you don't know what's going on. And I think there is some legitimacy to that. I get that, and I understand that. It is the job of all of us, fans included, media, whatever else, to analyze everything that's going on. But I do think that there is some legitimacy to that particular sentiment of the fact that just when you look at it and you say, okay, a guy threw an interception, or a guy had a pass that was well behind the receiver, or this defensive player made a spectacular move, or the defense dominated the offense today, or the offense dominated the defense today, all of those things give us indication. And certainly if you go back over history, you can see during training camp there are tendencies that can show themselves that then become unfortunate patterns or unfortunate habits that take place over the course of a year. And you can sometimes go back and look at it and say, you could see in camp, you could see the blueprint, you could see the footprint for what ultimately ended up becoming what we now know is what happened over the course of the regular season. But I just don't think with like one particular play, one particular overthrow, one particular interception, it's a danger in getting into that and overanalyzing it. But one thing that I think we can safely at this point say is that if you still have, and we are, again, just starting week number 2, but considering that we still have a quote-unquote quarterback battle, and there has not been either of those two that have made any sort of – you've not seen any headlines, any talk, any discussion. You've not heard Shane Steichen. You've not heard Chris Ballard talking about and raving about either of those two quarterbacks between Jones and Richardson. And I think it's still at this point – and, Kevin Bowen may, James Boyd, Mike Chappell, who's going to join us on the show today, they might have differing opinions of this. But it's my opinion that at this point, there really is not any more headway on determining and understanding who the starting quarterback is going to be, more so than there was a week ago. I think we are still at the same spot. But I keep going back to this default. It is my belief, not fact, but it's my belief and opinion, and especially just engaging through, talking to, reading the body language, all of it. I think that, and I do believe that Daniel Jones is going to start week 1. I have nothing to base that on the field in practice so far, but I just thought to base that on the field in coming into it, that Daniel Jones was the guy based on the money that he got, the one-year deal that he got, everything that goes into it. It felt to me like Daniel Jones, in fact, was going to be the guy that was going to win the job. But I say that with air quotes of win the job, because if Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback week 1, I think it's going to be almost not necessarily because Daniel Jones went out and won the job, which he has not done yet, but rather Anthony Richardson is not the one that won it. I think that Daniel Jones becomes the starter not because Daniel Jones clearly outplayed Anthony Richardson, but that everything was set up for Richardson to be the default, and Richardson, because of everything invested in him, that's who I think you would rather see as the starter. And so opportunities are going to be granted. The tipping scale is going to lean towards him when they're trying to determine tiebreakers, etc. But if Richardson does not do anything that just jumps out at the page at you and in that fault digresses at times, and I think there's been some regression at times. I guess regression is the better word. So what I'm trying to say, long-winded and circuitous, is this. If Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback for the Colts in week 1, then I think it may well be simply because Anthony Richardson lost the job, not because Daniel Jones jumped out and grabbed it. But we shall see what happens between those two at this point. There has not been any major step in determining that exact factor. The other things that go into play, Tyler Warren's starting to get a lot more work this morning in practice. They did several drills, quarterbacking drills that were, and Shane Steichen had talked about this, the fact that Shane Steichen had mentioned, hey, games oftentimes in the NFL are won and lost late in the game in terms of the last drive or two. And so we need to do a better job. I'm saying Shane Steichen was saying this. The Colts need to do a better job of, in those frantic situations, being able to have some control of the uncontrollable, if you will. And I think you saw that earlier today in practice, because one of the things that they did, they lined up their tight ends, notably Tyler Warren, and just kind of ran like this assembly line through where the 4 quarterbacks, and I'm talking about Bean, Leonard, and then the aforementioned Jones and Richardson, were all lined up, and their job was to each individually just come up, grab a football, throw. Come up, grab a football, throw. And they did this consistent, steady rotation of that, where each quarterback, when they got up there into the situation to throw the football, was doing so under duress, because it was fast, let's go, let's go, let's go. And I think that also is by design to see how well those quarterbacks are working in situations. It did appear as though today that Shane Steichen and the Colts were elevating their pacing within practice, and that's something that they had kind of promised to do, and that there was discussion that we would see more of in this particular session. Eddie Garrison here as well, obviously. Eddie, let's get to the Fever as well, because you obviously serve primarily as the primary pre- and post-game host for Fever broadcast. They got a win over the weekend, and again, a little bit more understanding perhaps of the timeline of Caitlin Clark, but in the meantime, there are other players that have been able to step up their game, Kelsey Mitchell being one of them over the weekend.
Oh, yeah, Jake. She drops 35 points in their win yesterday on 12 of 17 shooting, and season high for her, and she's been the best player in the WNBA this month. She'll probably, be recognized as the WNBA Eastern Conference Player of the Month. Just because she's leading the league in scoring, averaging just over 22 a game during the month, and she's been the one key fixture for the Fever that's been consistent, whether Caitlin Clark has been on the floor or she hasn't. Leah Boston has been pretty steady, but the numbers in terms of her output have been inconsistent, and that's just in large part because their defenses are focusing more on Aaliyah to try to take her away, and it's resulting in Kelsey Mitchell getting the ball more and having more space to operate, and they get a win yesterday over Chicago. No Angel Reese in that game either. Still waiting, though, to see what the status of Caitlin Clark holds in terms of when she's coming back and how soon she's coming back. They're next in action tomorrow.
So, Eddie, did you do anything fun and exciting over the weekend, by the way?
I did, Jake. I did. Let me tell you. So Happy Gilmore 2 came out, obviously, last Friday. And so Olivia and I made the decision of going over to a couple of our coworkers' house, and let's just say 45 minutes of Happy Gilmore was watched in the last hour or so was background noise.
Now, wait a minute. Can you elaborate on this, please? Now I'm very curious. Hold on. I want to back this up. So you're telling me now you tell me if I'm getting all of the clues here correct. So the two of you went over to a coworker's house to watch Happy Gilmore 2. Do I have that part correct?
Yes, there were 5 of us in total.
Oh.
Four of us in total.
Two couples, right?
No.
Okay. So you and Olivia as a couple went.
Yes.
And then you were meeting up with 2 individual members of our coworker, two coworkers individually, correct?
Not of ours, of hers.
Okay. Therefore, and then you watched 45 minutes of the movie of Happy Gilmore 2.
Yep.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And this is where all of a sudden I feel like, and this is where 14-year-old me comes into play. Then I feel like the HBO or the Cinemax like adult content disclaimer comes in, because then you said that suddenly the movie became background noise as these and originally what you said is that these two different couples then were there, and now I'm wondering what in the world was taking place. Now, do you mean just that the movie sucked?
No, I just can't remember much of the movie, Jake. If you're picking up on what I'm putting down there, we didn't go over there until almost midnight, and there were drinks involved, and there was a drinking game involved, and
were there any watermelon products involved?
No watermelon products involved.
Okay. Well, I mean, it is important in these weather conditions to make sure that you're staying hydrated, Eddie. Right?
Yes.
Is that what you're going with there?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Okay.
And it's five total people were there. I remember the tally now.
Okay, 5 total people.
Yes.
Okay, and so what you're saying is, when evaluating and assessing the Happy Gilmore 2 movie, you're by all account it was fine, but
Yep.
you're not necessarily completely aware of all of it, is what you're getting at, right?
Yes, because we became more chatty, and the movie was just kind of like in the background, and Olivia was the only person that was not consuming because she had to drive.
So will you? Well, that's very responsible of you. So then, will you review the movie just to recapture what it is that you might have missed?
Yes, 100%. Yeah.
Okay. Well, fair enough. And this movie, this is the thing I have with movies now. This is my only problem. I love going to the movie theater. We actually went to a movie on Friday night.
Which one?
I love going to what's that?
What'd you go see?
It was called Oh Hi.
Oh.
Kind of a B movie. I will say that there was one, like, an actress in it. It was about a young couple. So there was the old B and brief nudity, as they say in the disclaimers. But, I mean, it was a decent movie. It was okay, right? It was okay. It was definitely like a B movie, but just the experience of going to the theater. Now, let me tell you one thing that happened to me, and we'll get back into Colts camp, and I want to talk about what happened over the weekend at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway as well. But one weird thing happened, Eddie, and you tell me what you make of this. So we go to this movie. It's kind of a B movie. Not a bad movie. It was fine. There were probably 15 people, 20 people in the theater, okay? So, and it's one of those theaters with the big reclined seats, and you allegedly have assigned seating. So we are sitting in our row,
Yeah.
Shannon and myself, and we're basically in the middle of our row, and about 3/4 of the way through the movie, some guy, probably 25 years old, comes in and sits down right next to me. Has his popcorn, has his Coke, sits down right next to me. I'm like, the whole theater's open. What are we doing here, right? What are we doing? I found it interesting, though.
Did you chat to him at all?
No, I actually was kind of alarmed by it, because the movie's kind of like a lighthearted version of like Misery. So you got this poor guy in the movie that's trapped with this like crazy demented girlfriend, and it's a little bit of a psycho thriller type thing, and then all of a sudden 3/4 the way through it, just as some guy's like wondering what his future and fate is going to be, some random dude just comes in and sits down right next to me with his popcorn, reclines the seat back, puts his feet up, and I'm just like, what's happening? If it was the beginning of the movie, even then I would have been like, hey man, like, we each have our own state that we can pick in this, you know what I mean? Like, if this was the United States, we're sitting in Kansas, and the closest person is in either Rhode Island, Delaware, or like Arizona, and this guy just comes and plops down as Missouri. And I'm like, what in the world?
Now, let me ask you this
strange.
before we get back into the Colts. Where do you sit? Do you have a specific area that you have to sit in a movie theater? Are you in the front? You in the back? You in the middle? You on the aisle? You on where we sitting?
Okay, excellent question. I prefer aisle seating, just so you don't have to climb over anybody, unless it's a movie like this that sucks so bad that nobody else is there. Middle of the theater, so you don't want to be too far up. I don't want strained eyes nor neck.
Okay.
Best way to say it. So middle of the theater and then middle of the row. She bought the tickets, though, so she picked out the seats, and I don't know whether or not she planted this dude to come sit next to me or not. But it was very uncomfortable. It was very strange. Very strange. Now, there was good theater and not good theater when it comes to the weekend of racing. Let's begin with, and I shouldn't say not good theater, because what we are seeing from Alex Palou is truly remarkable. He has now won 19 races. He has won 8 on the season, 19 in his career, 8 in the season, in dominating fashion over the weekend in Monterey. WeatherTech Raceway Laguna Seca. I was on the call for that race yesterday, and Palou essentially did what Palou does. He led wire to wire for the most part. He jumped out to a huge lead off of the pole, and then each time he built a lead so big that he was able to come in, and for that matter, in the first stint before he came into the pits, he went, I think, 3 laps further on his tires than did anybody else. So he was in very good shape when he pitted and then came out, got back up to speed, didn't really lose any ground on track, and it was dominating fashion for him. But the other thing that happened that I want to get into is what happened yesterday at IMS. And this is another one of those sessions where I have a confession. It's a confession session here on Query & Company on this Monday, by the way, Colts Camp Grand Park in Westfield, where we are. And when Bubba Wallace and the IndyCar race finished, and then I was able to see, and mostly I had to go back and watch again the last laps of the Brickyard 400. And Bubba Wallace, and I certainly understand that over the course, Bubba Wallace has been a race car driver for a long time now. This is not like a new phenomenon and I know that NASCAR, there is a lot of, oftentimes in NASCAR races, you can look at a race and you can say to yourself, well, that seems awfully convenient that it fell this way or that this person won or that person won. And so therefore, when there are, when Daniel Suarez happens to win in Mexico, or when Kurt Busch is driving the Sharpie car and wins the Sharpie 500 for the 3rd straight year, I understand that people can make those connections. But yesterday with Bubba Wallace, after that race was over with, I will admit to this. I knew the history and the significance of the fact that you had the first African-American to win a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on the oval. I understood the significance of that. And then I thought to myself, but if you look at the history of Bubba Wallace, who is an accomplished race car driver, who has multiple wins within NASCAR, who's been around a long time, who got himself into the playoffs with that win. So this is not an anomaly winner. This is not a suspicious victory. Bubba Wallace won that race yesterday by by running on fumes and yet still maneuvering his car in overtime and holding off a challenge of one of the best oval stock car drivers and oval drivers in general that we have seen in racing in the last half century, and Kyle Larson. Bubba Wallace legitimately earned the victory yesterday. And as I was thinking about it after the fact, and I was thinking about the level of storyline, if you will, of the significance of Bubba Wallace being the first African-American to win at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And I thought, you know what? How great is it that we are past that? How great is it that that is not the storyline, because the storyline is just the fact that a darn good race car driver held off an elite-level, historically great race car driver to win at a historic track. And it's awesome that Bubba Wallace has been around long enough and drives for Michael Jordan and is, all of those things. It's awesome that all of those things overshadow the fact that he is the first African-American. And I thought, that's great. And that's not even really a storyline. And then, to quote Ice Cube, I kind of had to check myself because I thought about it historically. And I'll tell you what I thought about. I thought about Willie T. Ribbs, and when Willie T. Ribbs was making his historic qualifying attempt in 1991, 80 years, and 75 runnings of the Indianapolis 500 after the first one, Willie T. Ribbs was pulling out onto the main straight to go try to make his qualifying run in 1991. And as he was doing so, he tells the story of seeing a USAC scoring official that was lined up to send him on about his way that had tears in his eyes. And Willie T. Ribbs saw the tears in the eyes of that USAC official. And I thought about the fact that that USAC official probably was thinking about the significance of that. Because while he might not have been alive, clearly probably was not, in the early 20s, he had to think about those drivers, people like Charlie Wiggins, who grew up in Evansville in the turn of the 20th century and grew up in an era as a black man in an area that was infiltrated and influenced by the Ku Klux Klan and dreamed of becoming an elite-level mechanic. And by the time he was an elite-level mechanic, still at that time, the American Automobile Association was not allowing black drivers to race against non-black drivers. White drivers were not allowed to race against black drivers at that time. And so at that time for a Charlie Wiggins, thank goodness for him and for others that the Colored Speedway Association started in 1924. And 1924, not 1790, not 1890, 1924, which, yes, over 100 years ago now, but still within, you're not very far away removed from descendants of that era. And so I thought about Charlie Wiggins, and I thought about the significance for Charlie Wiggins of seeing the Colored Speedway Association starting in 1924, and then ultimately what it must have meant for him to see, for example, Joey Ray. Joey Ray, who was there in 1991 when Willie T. Ribbs made his qualifying run. Joey Ray, who raced 17 seasons from 1947 to 1963, and he raced in sprints and midgets and everything else that was available. And finally, the American Automobile Association allowed for him to become a member, and he raced his first race in it in June 26th of 1949. 1949, 25 years after the Colored Speedway Association began, forming a circuit for black drivers, Joey Ray was able to finally get that membership into the American Automobile Association. And so he raced in 1949. And that is not, that sounds like a long time ago, but we're talking about somebody that was there in 1991. That was there in 1991 when at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, when you had that significance of Willie T. Ribbs going out and making his run, and Joey Ray was there. And you think about, yes, there were others. Wendell Scott won in Jacksonville in USAC in 1963. So all of this has been done. I get it. But when thinking about it, when I thought about the accomplishments of those drivers and what it meant for those people, I wondered if, in fact, when Wendell Scott won in 1963, did people say, this isn't significant because Joey Ray was able to race 14 years ago? And when Joey Ray first raced in 1949 in a USAC race, did people say, this isn't significant because the Colored Speedway Association was forming races 25 years ago? So what I figured out and what I thought about when thinking about that significance was I thought about that man that was weeping when Willie T. Ribbs went out to make his qualifying attempt. Because that man was connected to that history and those significant events. And it dawned on me that the people that are the most impacted by it are the ones that, to those, they are able to determine whether or not something is significant. It is not my place to say that. And I do think that to this day, Miles Rowe, who is a promising driver in the Indian X presented by Firestone and won at Iowa and became the first African-American driver to win in the final top rung of the open wheel racing series that gets into the NTT IndyCar series. For Miles Rowe, I would bet you that he found it significant that Bubba Wallace won at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And if Danica Patrick had won the Brickyard 400 after several attempts and several years of history at the Indianapolis 500, if Danica Patrick had won the Indianapolis 500 or the Brickyard 400, either one, it would not have been dismissed as, well, the fact she's a female is no longer relevant because of her level of accomplishment. It would have been listed as significant, just as it was yesterday that Catherine Legg finished 17th, because of the fact that it still has connection to or is within recency of historical anomaly. And so for that reason, I hope that those that were touched by, driven by, influenced by, motivated by the accomplishments of Bubba Wallace were able to enjoy it yesterday. Because what you saw was a historical note in the world of racing at the most famous historical racetrack in the United States, in the world. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway is different. If Bubba Wallace had gotten that race, as he's done before at other tracks, it's still noteworthy, but it's not as noteworthy as the most historic track in the United States, and certainly, and yes, with all due respect to the Daytona International Speedway, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is still the greatest racetrack in which NASCAR runs, because any series that goes there would consider it to be the creme de la creme of the places where it can run because of the history within. So anytime we have the opportunity to celebrate a historical accomplishment that is the first of any level, we celebrate it. And so therefore, congratulations to Bubba Wallace, and it was very cool to be able to say, albeit perhaps years after it should have been, that we were able to witness yesterday history, and doing so in tremendous fashion, because he earned that win by going in, running low on fuel, having to win in overtime, having to hold off Kyle Larson. Significant win, and Bubba Wallace punches his card now into the NASCAR playoffs and does it at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Jaylen Jones is a guy for the Colts that we have talked about being involved in an almost unpredictable battle, not unlike the fact that I mentioned yesterday that it went into overtime in that Brickyard 400, right? Is the battle at the cornerback position just starting to go into not an overtime but just the regular season with Justin Wally, the rookie, still continuing to get a lot of starting reps. Jaylen Jones is a guy that I thought played well out of Texas A&M after being a 7th-round pick, but fighting for that starting spot. We'll see where things lie, and I might ask him as well the same thing of which quarterback from his standpoint when he's looking out over them does he feel like is throwing the tighter ball, the ball with the more zip? Maybe he can give us some insight into that. I mentioned Jaylen Jones because he's actually going to join us next on this Monday. Chap going to join us later today as well. It's Query & Company coming off of the weekend, and a historic one at that. You're listening to it on 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Colts camp, Grand Park, Westfield on what is obviously starting to become a very hot day. Good news is it was a little bit cooler this morning. Jaylen Jones had to like that along with the rest of the Colts. I realized that when you were coming off the field, you're probably like, what are you talking about? It was cooler this morning. But things were not as bad as we thought they were going to be in terms of the heat that we're going to see probably even later this afternoon. But things are heating up at your position. You're in year number 3 now. We'll get to all of that. But first off, man, good to see you. How are you?
I'm doing good. Just, blessed to be out here with the fellas, with the guys, preparation, just getting everything together, man, getting ready for the season. So,
it's interesting if you look at your story, okay? So you're a guy that, coming out of, even going into college, right? You were, an Under Armour All-American. I mean, you were a 5-star recruit. You go and you play collegiately at A&M, and then you get drafted here in round number 7. And you got to kind of earn your keep a little bit. And I thought you did a good job with that, especially when healthy. But the question I guess I would have is, at what point does that mindset kick in where you realize that there's battles and competitions, and at some point in your career, I would imagine that just natural ability kind of carried you a little bit? I'm not saying you didn't work hard. You get what I'm saying there, though, right? So was that in the NFL level at all eye-opening or an adjustment that you had to make?
I really just kept the main thing, just coming in and just, giving my all every day. I'm someone that, I live by my faith. So, just putting it all on the line and letting God take care of the rest. And, the city that I come from, we don't really get recognized for football. It's kind of blowing up a little bit more now. So definitely just having that chip on my shoulder and, putting on for my last name and coming out here trying to, display all my work. That's what I take pride in.
Okay, so the city you come from, I want to get to that. I'm going to see if I can pronounce it correctly, okay? Cibolo?
Cibolo.
I was close, right?
It's San Antonio. So.
Okay, San Antonio, right? So you're a Spurs fan?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. And now is San Antonio, is that the highlands of Texas? Am I way off on my geography here? Am I completely off?
It's hill country.
Hill
it's right
country,
up in
there we go.
Between all that area, Central Texas, Austin, that's all like your hill country.
So
area.
wait a minute. So I'm sitting here talking about the heat and the weather. This is winter to you, right? I mean, this is nothing for you. You're used to hot, humid. This is home, right?
I'm used to about 105, 102. I'm used to that. So
okay, so let's get to this in terms of let's go through your first 2 years in the NFL. Jaylen Jones of the Colts is our guest. Years 1 and 2. What were the things that, to me, from the get-go, you looked very comfortable as an NFL player, and I was very impressed by your close time, your athleticism. But for you personally, what felt like the area where you wanted to get a better feel for things?
There's definitely, just learning more about the game. I feel like when you come to the NFL, you come in as a rookie, you learn something new every day. Even now, and being in year 3, you learn something new every day. I hear coaches all the time say they learn new things every day. So, just understanding the game, understanding what teams are trying to do, and understanding your matchup. I feel like everything is something at home because, the athletic ability is going to be your ability, but the mental aspect. So,
would you say, Jaylon, what percent of playing your position at corner is preparation and understanding the tendencies and the nuance of the guy you're lining up against, and what percent of it is just natural instinct?
I would say down and distance, their scheme, what they like to do, and then formation. Just looking at the whole field and understanding, okay, this is how they're going to try to attack me right here. So that's like the mental aspect. The athletic aspect, the instincts is just like, it's like backyard football. You know what I'm saying? And really honing in on your technique. That's everything. Eyes, especially for me as a corner, as a DB, eyes are everything. You know what I'm saying? Eyes, feet. So really just paying attention to little things like that could be the difference between a catch, a PBU, or interception. So
in basketball, they always say that when you're guarding a guy, you got to watch his abdomen because his feet can go one way, right, to fake you out. His
shoulders,
eyes can go one way.
Head.
I was going to, exactly, all of it, right?
Yeah.
The areas that's the only way that the guy's going is where that's turning, right? Mm-hmm. For you, when you were lining up on a guy, and let's say that and we'll go 2 different guys here. The first is you're going up against a receiver that you're totally unfamiliar with. You've not seen a lot of tape on him. You don't know. Where are you looking on him to give you the indication of what he is going to do?
Right in his abdomen, right in his hips.
Same thing then, right?
Because that can't go nowhere.
Okay. And then I would assume if it is a guy that you've gone up against a lot, then what little things do you look for is it different from player to player in terms of their tendencies that you say, okay, I've seen that before from this guy, so I know which way he's going?
Yeah, definitely. When you play a guy a lot of times, you know his moves, what he likes to do. But at the end of the day, like, it comes down to just the mental preparation, you know, especially like when you're on the field, it's, you know, third, fourth quarter, you're tired. You know, technique, you got to be A1. You can't be sloppy out there because, like I said, a small smidge of a step could be, like I said, a catch, a PB, or an interception. So definitely just understanding that, okay, this guy likes to do this, but I still got to play my technique.
Jaylen Jones, our guest, he is entering year number 3 for the Colts. We're at Grand Park Westfield, where the conversation taking place here. Jaylon, for you personally this year, you know, you're involved in a position battle, quite frankly. Justin Whaley, who they drafted out of Minnesota, has gotten a lot of reps. Obviously, Juju Brent's trying to get that year where he can be healthy. I like his athleticism as well. You look at it how? Did you anticipate that you would be in this battle?
You know, yeah, like, you know, new coaching staff coming in and basically just having the mindset of, like, you know, you got to earn it every day. You know, nothing's just going to be given to me, you know what I'm saying? So I go out there, just keep the main thing, keep working, keep honing in on my work. And as a room, you know, we help each other. You know, it's not like, you know, nothing crazy, just we all help each other, man. So definitely just trying to keep it, you know, trying to keep it all honed in. And, you know, it's a team game, man. We all got to go out there as 11. So
for you personally, this defense in terms of the schemes that are being brought in by Lou Anarumo, they feel different to you in what way? What do you like or not like or yet to grasp with this defense?
Oh, love it. It's aggressive. You know, it's aggressive, and that's what I love about Lou. So, and the main thing I love about him is, you know, he holds everybody accountable. You know what I'm saying? So I love that. And like I said, man, it's gonna be good this year.
Now, would you prefer to play in a defense that is more man, where you're locking in on a guy, or do you like the zone coverage where you get an area but you also get some help?
You know, I'm somebody I like it all, just because, you know, at times it's switch ups, but like I said, as a corner, man, whether it's zone, man, whether it's whatever, like, go out there, just do my job, try to make a play for my guys.
By the way, are you really good at – I'm just assuming if you grew up in San Antonio, and this is maybe unfair of me, I'm going to bet that you really like hot, spicy food.
Yeah, I do.
Is that – can you cook it?
No, I don't.
Have you found –
I'm not a great cook, not yet, at least.
You and me both. Have you found a place in Indy that's your favorite place where you're like that's authentic?
Verde.
Okay.
I'm a Verde guy.
So Pata Award has told me the same thing.
Yeah.
That he likes the exact same thing.
I like Verde.
The other thing, too, I want to ask you about is, do they still do the bonfire at Texas A&M?
Yeah. I don't know.
That was a huge deal, right?
I think they do. I'm not sure. I really don't know. But
well, do you know this? Did you know that the Colts at one point in the Ring of Honor had the 12th man, and then I think they had to take it out because Texas A&M sued them. Now, are you aware of that?
No, I didn't even know that.
Because that's a big deal at A&M, the 12th man, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because that is a crazy fan base, is it not?
Yeah.
I mean, playing at A&M is
the best coat of all time.
What's that?
So the best coat of all time.
That's right.
That's what they love to call it. So we take pride in it.
That's Colt with a U, by the way. Jaylen Jones is our guest. We're at Colts camp. Okay, I wanted to ask you this as well. There is obviously a quarterback battle here as well. And, you know, Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. What have you seen from both of those guys? Critique for me what you've seen from them in lining up across from them.
Oh, man, they're both, you know, pushing each other. They're both helping each other. And like I said, same thing I explained earlier, just keeping it all as a brotherhood, man. Like, we're out there just to help each other, man, so we can go out there on Sundays, you know. So, I mean, what I've seen from both of them is just, you know, they're both hardworking, they're both locked in, and they dealing. So,
when you look at it, do they have different tendencies, different looks, different motion, different the zip on the ball, whatever it may be? Can you tell which one of them is the one releasing?
No, I'm about to say, like I said, the way I see it is quarterback. So.
So when it comes to it, you're looking at it, and I guess it's the same as in the NFL, right? I mean, on a Sunday, it's you've got to know the tendencies of a guy, but yet in that particular play, you're just honed in on it's quarterback. You're not going with the name of the personnel.
Yeah.
Fair?
They got it. He's throwing the ball to the receiver.
And your job is to make sure it doesn't get there, right?
It doesn't get there, yeah.
All right, lastly, this defense, as we talked about, as we move our way in, it is progressing at what rate? You are at what percentage as a unit of understanding what Coach Lou Anarumo wants versus where you need to be? How far along have you guys gotten in the depths of what he wants defensively?
Oh man, we're pretty much. We're honed and locked in on everything, man. Just and everything's game plan. Week in and week out, some things gonna switch, some things, that's just what it is. That's the game of ball. But as terms as everybody, knowing what's going on, everybody's 100% on everything. So
have you guys gotten into fully what it is that you're going to do as a defense?
Yeah, we understand what he wants. We understand what he wants. But like I said, we're just out there all honed and locked in. So.
Well, you still got plenty of time to go as well to get it all mastered, but it'll be here before we know it. Jaylen Jones, I appreciate it. Continued luck and success here entering year number 3 for the Colts. And next time you're at Verde, enjoy it, all right?
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
All right, appreciate it. Jaylen Jones joining us here, Grand Park in Westfield. I think we may have Chap later on the show. We'll see whether or not we can lock him down, but we'll continue the discussion, the conversation as well. It's Query & Company here on a Monday, Grand Park in Westfield on The Fan.
his time, I also will confess this, as was the case the other day. Certainly appreciate the Colts camp, their accommodation, Matt Conti in particular. But, obviously the practice is done at 11. Today it was done about 11:20. But due to the luxury and the magic of radio, maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm only saying it because people are going to be like, wait a minute, now Jake's on the YouTube in studio.
He missed me, people.
As soon as that practice was complete,
the whole reason why.
I recorded that session with Jaylen Jones and then made my way from Grand Park back here to be in studio, partially because of the fact that they are done now for the day and there's nothing going on at Grand Park, but also because while it has been so far, thankfully, we've gotten a little bit of reprieve. The anticipation was that it's going to be really ugly later today. A couple of news and notes here. Number one, we have tickets to give away. Eddie, is that correct?
We have lots of tickets to give away, Jake. We've got 2 4-packs of tickets for Three Dog Night. That is Friday at the State Fair. And then Dropkick Murphys and Bad Religion. We have a pair of those to give away. That concert is at Everwise, and that will be next Tuesday. And it's my understanding, Jake, that
Dropkick Murphys are fabulous, by the way.
Olivia's
I love the Dropkick
dad
Murphys.
is in town I think he comes in town this weekend, and I don't know how long he's staying, but he's a very, very big fan of the Dropkick Murphys. So
they're great.
May have to scoop up a
Three
pair
Dog
for him.
Night's great as well. My middle school basketball coach, Bruce Bowling, his favorite band, Three Dog Night. He loves Three Dog Night. And the State Fair is great in general. I mean, the State Fair, I think we're going to be out there. I'm out there Friday, if I'm not mistaken.
Dairy Bar.
Opening day of the State Fair. There's nothing better than the Dairy Bar. First off, I make, when I get to be one of the servers there, I am, and this is the only skill that I possess.
Do we know what day you're serving this year?
I don't yet. But I make milkshakes that are literally Eiffel Tower size. I'm phenomenal.
Really?
Have you ever made a list of every single place that you've ever worked, Eddie?
Well, it's very simple, Jake. I don't need to make a list.
What about in high school?
I worked at one place in high school. Worked there for 2 years.
What did you do?
I worked at a pet store.
Oh, really?
They no longer exist, unfortunately.
Riddle me this, and please tell me that there are happy endings. I've always wondered what happens to the little puppies and kittens that don't get purchased.
What do you mean?
Well, exactly that.
No, what do you mean?
What do they do with them?
So they usually get in contact with local fostering homes or shelters, and they, set up a meet and greet for somebody to go foster or things like that.
Do most of them sell?
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time, yeah. Sometimes you have to, contact whomever provided the cat and be like, hey, this cat or dog or whatever is not adapting well, and can you take him back to foster him to kind of, get him back in his well-being?
I had a number of jobs. My first job was at O'Malley's. It was the best. There were so many things I learned by working at O'Malley's Food Market that I carry to today. I mean, one of the things I'll never forget was my first day on the job at O'Malley's. Jim Weghorst was my manager, Bill Bowler, Jeff Jarbo. I still remember everybody I worked with. One of the first things I remember is they said, when you are working, if a customer asks you where an item is, you don't tell them, you walk them to it.
Yep. And
when you walk them to it, you ask them how their day is. And I also, I carried out groceries. It was the one over by Cathedral, and when you would carry out, you were allowed to take tips. And I think I've mentioned this before. Scott Skiles would come in. Scott Skiles was a point guard for the Pacers at the time, lived right around the corner. He always tipped and was always cool. It was cool because it was Scott Skiles, right? And it was even better when Scott Skiles' wife would come in.
Now, why is that, Jake?
Usually she was coming from a workout.
Oh.
And had on like the 1988 equivalent of Lululemon shorts. And then Donnie Walsh would tip $5, righteous bucks, right? And so we would all line up. That was the creme de la creme. And he would come in there, and we would all line up to do his groceries because he tipped $5. And then in 1989, when I was carrying out for him, I asked him what he thought of Jay Edwards, who I thought was the greatest basketball player in the history of basketball. I still think that. And Donnie said he's probably a second-round pick. And I was so dejected and offended and upset and heartbroken by hearing that about Indiana's All-American that I very calmly put the groceries in his car and then refused to ever bag his groceries again. I let everybody else get the $5 because I'm like, no, I'm not going to bag for him. Because he thinks Jay Edwards is a second-round pick. Jay Edwards, by the way, second-round pick. Played like 6 games in the NBA and then was done. Speaking of the NBA, interesting report card about the Pacers I want to get to. I will do so in just a couple of minutes. But the other thing I was going to mention is in terms of jobs that you had as a young person. So I had O'Malley's. I had a number of jobs. One of them that I had was for 2 summers I worked the beach stand at Rivy, so the snack bar at the Riviera Club, and that's where I became the maestro of the now. And you think when I say that I was a master at serving out the soft serve ice cream, you think to yourself, well, there's nothing hard about that, but there is. If you really want to do the proper aesthetics, beauty, and towering of a milkshake, there is a way to do it. It's a finesse. And you tell me the height, and I can get it that high. I'm that good at it. I'm literally that good at it. Just so you know. Pacers report card. We'll get into that discussion coming up. So we have 3 Dog Night tickets and Dropkick Murphy tickets to give away. Eddie, you would like to do that when and how on this fine program?
We'll do it within the next couple hours. That's for sure, Jake.
Within the next couple hours. Let me remind you that this show has remaining in it just a couple hours. But in those a couple remaining hours, we're going to go ahead and give away tickets.
Well, Jake, if I've learned one thing for you, it's the art of the tease. I can't tell them when, because next thing you know, if somebody's just catching the program, they catch the other. Like, okay,
we had a meeting recently about this where they said what we got to do is we got to entice people to continue listening to the big program.
That's right. If I just tell you, hey, we're going to give these away at 12:53, you would just turn back in at 12:53 to figure out how you'd win the tickets.
Very fair. Very fair. Major League Baseball over the weekend, or actually just the Baseball Hall of Fame, the Professional Baseball Hall of Fame, inducted its new class. 2 things that jumped out at me. I did not watch the entire coverage of it. Number one, it really is a shame. It's fabulous that he is in, don't get me wrong, as he should be. But it really is a shame that Dave Parker, passed and was not there for that. But I think it was his son or a family member that was there on his behalf. It was an interesting Hall of Fame class because there was nobody in it that, like CC Sabathia, who now lost a bunch of looks good, lost weight, right? Almost didn't recognize CC Sabathia. Dick Allen is a player that I think was a really good player, but he just kind of gets lost in. He was not an after era star, if you will. The one thing that jumped out at me is I'm like, when did Ichiro get old? I mean, Ichiro looked not old, but and he was an older player, I realized by the time he came over, and a fantastic player. But Ichiro's one that I'm like, whoa, it looks like he retired 20 years ago. One thing to me, I had a baseball epiphany that I was like, holy cow. And it puts a lot of things in perspective about how time is undefeated. And I will get into that, and I will issue a report card, or rather read one about the Pacers that I found a little bit troubling because it might be true. I'll do that on the other side. We come back here. Mike Chappell, just over an hour from now, we'll get the latest on one quarterback perhaps today separating a little bit at the end of Colts practice. We'll get into that with Chap. Do so 2 o'clock hour. It's Query and Company on the Fan. Over the weekend, I was in the IndyCar world, of course, with the race in Monterey. Alex Palou getting the win. You heard me mention that off the top of the show. And that was the Java World Grand Prix. I got a great night's sleep, to be honest with you, but I think I might be growing an addiction to Java World. Not like Kramer with the cafe lattes, but like the little pour instant beverage dealio, like really good.
Do they have chai tea?
They didn't. I had some peach tea. I did have some peach tea.
I do enjoy some peach tea.
Yeah, it was. I'm telling you, good stuff. Very good stuff. The Baseball Hall of Fame, with their inductions this weekend, one of the things that struck me as interesting, and I pass it along only because it put things into this weird relative perspective. And I'm going to get to a Pacers report card grade in just a second. But many of you may remember, and even if you're my age, you got to go kind of in the deep, deep, deep part of your cerebellum to remember this, because it was like this, almost like, did that really happen type thing. But when the RCA Dome, then known as the Hoosier Dome, was built, they were trying to come up with, and there was certainly discussion and conversation about Indianapolis becoming a Major League Baseball city. And Art and Gotti had come up with the Indianapolis Arrows. They had, and they went pretty far into this. I mean, they had sold some season tickets. Harry Carey came here on the Circle and led a rally to talk about how Indianapolis would be a great baseball town, which is ironic because in the end, what really kind of did in the efforts was a collaboration of, I believe, the Cincinnati Reds, St. Louis Cardinals, the White Sox. The Cubs may have been one of them, the Tigers maybe, but a number of teams basically said, we don't want a major league team in Indianapolis because we already have too many Midwestern cities. And at that point, the dream kind of just vaporized. But as a test balloon as to whether or not Indianapolis could, in fact, host baseball games, when the Dome was first opened, they did a Major League Baseball old-timers game. And it was an old-timers game that, and I'm trying to find the exact date in which this took place. But the old-timers game featured, stars of yesteryear, if you will. And I think the reason they did it was to try to get, to find out whether or not they could get Major League Baseball into the Dome if that's where they needed to play. And it was a disaster because the stadium was not wide enough, and so there was like no left field line. It just, the dimensions of the Dome were not good for Major League Baseball. But in this old-timers game that took place, a couple of the key players that were in the game, Henry Aaron was in it, and Willie Mays was in it. And I think it was 1984. It was either 84 or 85. So I would have been like 12 years old. And, of course, my dad is like, oh, Willie Mays, the best five-tool player of all time, center fielder, and, Henry Aaron, the all-time home run leader. And I knew of those names, and I knew of – obviously, I not just knew of them. I mean, they were giants within the sports world at that time. But they were players from a yesteryear. They were players from – I mean, Eddie, you're a baseball guy, right?
Yeah.
When I say Willie Mays and Hank Aaron, you know who they are, but they are – I'm not going to say dinosaurs and disrespect them, but from a long time ago, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? I don't know. They are historical figures to you, right?
Yes.
And they were to me when I was 12 years old.
Kind of like Walter Payton? For me, at least. Historical figure for me because I didn't get to see him play.
Yeah, but I mean, yes. But obviously, in Payton's terms, those guys were even like one half generation before that, right? But what's totally bizarre to me is I looked it up, and I'm like, okay, so the equivalent of Willie Mays and Hank Aaron to today's 12-year-old, as it was for me at 12, would be like today if you had an old-timers game, and in that old-timers game you had Ken Griffey Jr. and Chipper Jones. Like, that's how, to a kid, that's how long ago even that era of baseball was. Like, Ichiro probably to kids feels like forever ago. And yet, to me, it's like, I feel like he just retired, like, in March. I know that wasn't the case. But I just thought it was interesting because I'm like, man, I mean, Father Time is undefeated. Time is just a nonstop warp. And I probably just made a lot of people feel really old with that epiphany that I had. ESPN did a report where they graded each NBA franchise's offseason. The Indiana Pacers are coming off of the finest season from a postseason standpoint in franchise history. They have never been closer to a title. They were 2 quarters from one, if you think about the fact they were leading at the half of game number 7. And while that is so special and is so right there in your fingertips, it also feels so far away because you're like, man, I mean, you really think, you get excited for the upcoming season, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. One projection has them at an over-under of 38.5 in total of in terms of wins for this coming season. I think personally, Eddie, 38.5 with a lineup of Andrew Nembhard, Benedict Mathurin, probably Jay Huff or Isaiah Jackson or James Wiseman, Jarris Walker, Obi Toppin, Ben Shepherd. I'm trying to think of who Johnny Furphy. Who am I missing here? There's just Pascal Siakam, obviously. Yep. Aaron Nesmith, right?
Both of those last two were at the Brickyard 400. I don't know if you saw that.
Pascal Siakam drove the pace car, right?
And Aaron Nesmith was incredibly upset about meeting Cookie Monster.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was expecting more. It just wasn't.
He was disappointed. Did he do an interview about it?
I saw a video of it.
So Aaron Nesmith he was expecting more in meeting Cookie Monster?
Yeah.
What more would you want?
I don't know.
Like, is Cookie Monster, by the way, and I thought it was fabulous how Cookie Monster was the grand marshal of the race. Is that because there is concern that Sesame Street could go away? Is that what that is? I didn't know the exact tie-in as to why Cookie Monster was there.
He said, "My life is a lie," when he met Cookie Monster.
Is it because in case kids are listening, I'm going to speak cryptically here. Was the gentleman who would be Cookie Monster's assistant? Was he with him the whole time? Was he visibly there?
Yes. Because this was, I don't know where they were at. Looks like they were just like on Pagoda Plaza area. I don't know. It's almost like behind scenes. I'm not 100% sure where they were at.
Mm-hmm. And
You'd have a better idea than
what's
I
that?
would. You would have a better idea than I would because...
if you really look closely, as much as I hate to say it, and again... But I will simply put it in cryptic terms. If you really look closely, you never really notice that Kermit the Frog has very wiry arms.
Yeah.
If you look closely. And that's a bit disturbing to notice that, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a fella that was very close with Big Bird, but the fella that was very close to Big Bird was close to him because behind the scenes for Big Bird, he pulled a lot of strings to get to know him well. And that also is like, oh, okay. But it is what it is, right? But the Pacers over under, Eddie, what would you put it for this coming season?
I would put it at 40.5.
I would tend to agree with that. I think the Pacers went from obviously being, what we look at it and we say, okay, I mean, they were a title contender, and now you look at Indiana and it feels like they slide into like a 6 to 8 seed.
You can already tell just based off of what TJ McConnell put in the Players Tribune that that's
another player I forgot to mention. Yeah.
These guys are very and Rick Carlisle as well during that interview he did with I forget the name of the Greenlight podcast with Chris Long, that he was very aware of what people.
Right.
As was McConnell, of how people are anticipating the pace. They think there's going to be like this dramatic drop-off in play, like they're going to be a team that's bottom 5 in the league, whereas, they believe they're still a playoff team.
I mean, what they lost, and that's what I want to get to. The report card that was given by ESPN, it rated the Indiana Pacers offseason. What grade would you give it? What grade would you give, Eddie, the offseason of the Indiana Pacers?
It's a good question.
Because there are two ways to look at it.
There are.
The way that they responded, or just overall what happened. How teams fared is how it's graded. The offseason grades, how teams fared in the offseason.
Oh, their grades? They're not like fair food items?
That's right. Graded A through F. You would put them where?
B.
Really?
I would.
Okay. So you're going to give the Pacers a B as in boy, right?
Yeah. I'm not a big plus-minus guy. I just go with the letter.
It's possible, I'm going to read to you what is written here. It's possible we'll look back and think the Pacers were better off not paying Miles Turner through his mid-30s, but there are no banners for fiscal responsibility, and Indiana lost a key piece to a starting five that relied more on fit than sheer talent. The Pacers have no clear replacement for Turner, although I liked taking a flyer on Jay Huff, who has a similar skill set. Expecting him to start after falling out of Memphis' playoff rotation is unrealistic. Indiana's other traditional centers, Tony Bradley, Isaiah Jackson, and James Wiseman, are also career backups. That writing on ESPN.com.
Who wrote
from
that?
Kevin Pelton.
Okay.
Now, he gives them a grade of a D. I think that's a little bit harsh, and I'll tell you why. As the dust has settled, and as we have gotten just to kind of know a little more background, the Miles Turner thing continues to be peculiar. And I say that because it is true. I am confident in saying that I can verify that the Pacers did not get an opportunity to match. So when they went to the table sitting down with Miles Turner, Indiana had a number in mind. They threw that number out. They were well willing to go beyond that number. They were well willing to go deep into the tax, maybe not to the second apron, but they were willing to go into the luxury tax. Any insinuation that the Indiana Pacers were trying to be fiscally responsible in offering Miles Turner are not accurate. They were willing to go beyond what it was that they initially offered. But there's a reason they call it negotiations. What they did not know or anticipate was that Milwaukee had that offer, and Milwaukee said to Miles Turner, "We are offering this to you one time. And you can take this offer, but if you go back and use this for leverage for Indiana, then it's off the board. It's gone. It's a what we are not giving you the opportunity. Here is the offer, and you sign it right now, or it's gone." And so Turner saw that, and then, for the reasons we talked about, decided to take it. I think the bigger concern for Indiana, or the bigger question that you have to ask that we may never know the answer to, is what is it about the Pacers or the experience here that led Miles Turner to just go ahead and say, you know what, good, let's go. I'm good with it, let's go. As opposed to, no, I want to go back to, but again, there is a lot of history with Turner and the, transactional history. And I think Miles Turner may that offer to DeAndre Ayton may have still been in the back of his mind, whatever it may be. The thing that is peculiar is that Turner, changing his number and not having a lot of contact, what is it that led, and we may never know that answer, but Indiana was in a situation, in a position there that I don't know, frankly, how much in the vacuum they could have controlled. What needs to then be assessed and evaluated is, I understand the thought process from people that Miles Turner, statistically speaking, was not worth the money that was being anticipated. And if you look at it, you say, statistically, he was easy to replace. But what he does as a facilitator for the offense they run was so critically important in terms of that high post. Basically, he's the guy that everything went through. I know that Halliburton is the point guard or Nembhard when he's running point, but the ball goes to Turner, and then everything all of a sudden filtrates through there. He was their filter. And not J. Huff may be able to do that. Isaiah Jackson may be able to do that. But and J. Huff, I think, has the ability to shoot the basketball. But the vision and the immediate reactionary passing is what was so important. And so losing him is such that I understand the grade of a D. How they responded to it is actually a different grade. And that grade is probably like the ones that I took a ton of in college, which was, for example, I had mono in college. Did you ever get mono, Eddie?
Nope.
Makes sense. It's the kissing disease, right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. So when I got mono, I mean, it was like mono's a great diet plan. I slept. It was unbelievable.
I think that says more about you than me, Jake.
You think so, huh?
Uh-huh.
I got mono and slept like 18 hours a day, and I ended up having to take several classes as an incomplete.
I think there's a word that I can use to describe you. Playa.
You think so? I was a late developer.
Sure.
I was a late developer. I was a late bloomer in the aspect of that. But nonetheless, I had a lot of incompletes, and I think the Pacers' grade, truthfully, is an incomplete. I know you want to give it a D in terms of how they fared in the offseason, but how they fared in the offseason, oftentimes it's not what happens to you as an athlete. It's not what happens to you really in life. It's how you respond to it. And we may never know. It is entirely possible that the Pacers are in the position they're in at the center position because of something that they did or did not foresee regarding Miles Turner. And maybe they should have had better understanding of that or better approach of that or better initial outreach than that. But either way, when Miles Turner did what essentially was a blindside move against them, it was not that adversity that came their way. It's the how you react and respond to it. And J. Huff, if he is a guy that can play even a fraction of what Miles Turner did, that's going to help them. He's going to get plenty of opportunity this year to get increased minutes and show whether or not he is the next Aaron Nesmith. And by that, I mean a guy that was cast off at his first stop, gets a second lease, and then all of a sudden everything comes his way. We'll see.
I do want to point out as to why I gave them a B, Jake. You just referenced the reaction to the Turner loss, and to compound that with the Tyrese Halliburton injury, you didn't see the Pacers panic. Like, they stay true to what they are and what they've been doing. They didn't go out and try to frantically sign somebody to replace Tyrese or to come in and ruffle the feathers up with this group. And I feel like they have the utmost trust in Rick Carlisle and the guys on the roster to pick up the slack of where Tyrese is going to be out. And on the Turner side of things, this may be crazy for me to think, Jake, but I think there's a way that this Pacers team can be better defensively without Miles Turner. Because for Turner's rim protection that he did bring, he did struggle in terms of being out on the perimeter when it comes to switching and pick and rolls and that types of things, giving up a lot of drives to the basket, and it put the Pacers in precarious defensive positioning.
And he certainly struggled in, certainly in the finals, obviously in terms of low post play, right? But
yes.
Again, and I get all that, Eddie. There were definitely vulnerabilities, but I still think that what he brought in terms of the facilitator for the way that they run that offense and that high weave is very important. And I think it's very rare. There's a reason Milwaukee, 95% of why Milwaukee went after Turner the way they did is because of the skill set he has that is very unique. And then 5% of it is because those two franchises hate each other.
He's a young Brook Lopez. Like, he is going to be Brook Lopez for them.
Yeah. Brook Lopez, by the way, runs funny. Have you ever noticed that?
Yeah.
He runs. Brook Lopez runs like he lowers his, like he runs like he's hiding, and then he also runs like he's headed to the portalette. Have you noticed that?
Yes.
Honestly, like, it's very weird. He does kind of like the penguin trot, right? When he runs.
It's like you're I don't even know. It's like you've got like the mat on the water out at the lake or something and you're trying to run on it
Yes.
and you're just trying to not fall over.
Yes.
That's what it looks like.
It does. Good player, good shooter. And you're right. I mean, maybe that is where they see or what they anticipate seeing out of him. In terms of seeing, by the way, Colts camp out there earlier today. Let's get you caught up on what took place today. What did take place is this. At the quarterback battle, Anthony Richardson, and I said this off the top of the show, I truly believe this. If Daniel Jones becomes the starter for the Colts, it is not going to be because Daniel Jones won the job outright. It is going to be because Anthony Richardson lost it. Because I think they are still in the back of their mind, Richardson is tantalizing enough and they have enough invested in him. Yes, I know they gave Jones $13 million, but it's a one-year free agent contract and everybody knows it's kind of a flyer. With Richardson, with what you have invested, both in terms of finance and, you know, the draft pick in general, drafting him where they did, they still need him to work out. And today, he had a good day. He was 6 of 6 today. I made the joke that he came out and immediately threw one into the ground. I think he was joking around. But 6 of 6 in their final drives, I should say, towards the end of camp, closing things out for the day. Richardson got in rhythm, and that's what you need. They ran, I was mentioning that they did this drill where they had all of the quarterbacks lined up behind the center, like, you know, I mean, in the backfield. And then they lined up all of the tight ends. And think about the Pacers offense. As I mentioned, when Miles Turner's up on the high post, and then you've got everybody's just running around, like circularly around that three-point circle, and they're just distributing the ball around in that sprinkler system, essentially. They were kind of doing that with the quarterbacks. So tight ends were lining up, or receivers, and running a slant, and the quarterback's job was to come up quickly and then, boom, catch and throw from the – it wasn't even a snap. It was a toss over to them, catch and throw. And they were testing the rhythm and the pacing and trying to create, Shane Steichen has talked about, that frantic nature of what they think they need to do a better job with, that frantic nature of it. And when they were doing that, Richardson was and this is what you need him to be. He was accurate and he was in rhythm in that particular offense and that drill. And that's what you need. That's what you need for him to be, because that's what Shane Steichen wants, is not only a command of the frantic, but Richardson, nobody has questioned that Richardson can throw that 45-yard out to Alec Pierce behind the defense. It's those throws, the routine 12 to 20-yard pass or 6 to 12-yard pass more so, that you need from him.
The layups. And he hit them today. Now, that's the first time I think that we have seen exhibit of, okay, he's look at what a day he had. Over the course of the weekend and through the first week of camp, I think it's all been fairly, average is the wrong word, but nothing from either one of them really jumps out at you. Pedestrian. Neither one of them has wowed anybody. And if both of them, it is my belief, I still think Daniel Jones is going to be the starter. And I think that only because I think Richardson is going to do things where they just don't have that trust. But neither one of them so far has done something where you've said, okay, there it is. I mean, that guy that's the difference.
You think it's just time getting back on the practice field, Jake? And
it's hard to say because they're not out there very long.
It's true. That's why I say that.
And J.J. Watt, I thought, Chris Widlick today made a really interesting point. Chris Widlick, who's at CBS 4, we are standing there talking. He made a really good point. And he said, Jake, there's a reason why the first week or two in the NFL, it is so hard to gauge even still who is where. It's hard to gauge. There's always overreaction Monday in the NFL of, oh my gosh, Arizona is unbelievable. And did you see the Chiefs? The end is there. They're done. They look terrible. You get a lot of that in week 1 and maybe even week 2. And Widlick said to me, he said, if you go back to the old school, Rick Venturi was out there today. If you go back to when Rick Venturi was coaching.
How is the coach doing?
Good. His grandson, my buddy Jason's son, is apparently a really good player.
Oh, good.
And so we were talking about that. He was super excited about that, but also realistic because he's a young kid. But he was good. And so when we were sitting there talking, it looks like they practiced for an hour. And we are from the old school, like the Rick Venturi era, where guys had 2-a-days for 2.5 hours each and 5 hours. Back in my day, guys out there for 7 hours. It probably wasn't that, but in your mind you think that, right? That it was just junction boys all the time. There's one garden hose out there, and go grab it and get back in line, and let's go. We got more, man-on-man drills. Lie on your back, stand up, and pop a guy. All that. And it's different now. J.J. Watt said it. He's like, look, don't get super excited on what you're seeing from plays in camp because you just don't know what's being worked on. And Widlick was saying in the first 2 weeks of the season, it is difficult to know exactly how good teams are because they are using even regular season games now to even for themselves feel things out and learn because they haven't been able to do it in camp because they don't have the number of reps. And I understand it. I understand it's an NFLPA thing and it's probably a health thing and a preservation of body thing. I get all that. Totally understand it. But it is a different time now where we go further into the end of camp and into the regular in through preseason and even into the regular season where we truly know where teams are and who is what. And I thought it was a really good point because I just was saying to him, I'm like, don't you remember back in the day when we'd be out here drive over to Terre Haute and it was worth the 2-hour round trip commute, 2.5-hour round trip commute because you knew that you were going to be there to watch a 3-hour practice and then maybe even a second practice in the evening. And yes, this might be to keep guys healthy. Or maybe that guys are just like, yeah, I don't want to go out there and practice that much. And I guess if you can get away with it, then make the change, then do it. But it's still hard to know where things are. But as of today, good day for Anthony Richardson. Good day yesterday at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. I want to get back into that, and we will give away tickets. Which one are we going to give away first, Eddie?
I'll have to tune in and find out, Jake.
All right, we'll do it next. So I assume that means you are going with Three Dog Night first for the tickets that we'll give away, correct, Eddie?
That is accurate.
You would like to do that in what fashion?
You know, it's highly requested, Jake, and oh so popular, especially with the kids. I think we do a little get to know your listener.
All right, get to know your listener. What number caller are we going with here?
So are we doing both? We have 2 4-packs to give away here.
We could do that. Knock them out, right?
Yeah.
This is going to be at the Great Indiana State Fair, correct?
Yes, on Friday. So if you're somebody who likes to be at the fair and you're there and you want to be there all
Opening day.
Be there all day. You can
Opening
stop
day.
by the Dairy Bar, visit yourself, watch Three Dog Night at the stage there, the Hoosier Lottery stage.
So the telephone number, of course, for this fabulous opportunity is 239-1070, correct?
Yes.
That would be 239-1070. You know, this radio station used to be on 1070. That's why it's 239-1070. But now, of course, we are on 93.5 and 107.5, The Fan. And we will get to the get to know your listener here in just a minute. I mentioned the fact that yesterday something happened at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and I mentioned it earlier off the top of the show about the history of what took place yesterday. Bubba Wallace winning the Brickyard 400 is significant. Now, he is not the first person of color to win a race at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Lewis Hamilton did that with the U.S. Grand Prix in 2007. He is the first African-American, and yes, you could say that, well, Jake, you're getting way too into the weeds here and nuancing that fact. I understand that. But the reason it is significant is because he's the first person of color to win on the oval, or at least I shouldn't say person of color, because you have obviously like Takuma Sato, if you wanted to say that, from Japan, but the first African-American to win on the oval at the historic Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You know, there have been minorities in different areas, different ethnicities to win there. But I actually, and I thought a lot about this, and I'm going to repeat what I said earlier before we get into get to know your listener. I had said earlier that as I watched Bubba Wallace win that race, I thought to myself, how great is it that we have reached a point where the fact that he is the first African-American to win on the oval at IMS is like a footnote not worth mentioning. Because he's an accomplished driver. He's been around for a while now. He has multiple wins within the NASCAR, schedule and history. By getting that win, he's now in the playoffs for this year. So he is an accomplished guy. This was not some anomaly one-off that won. And he also, Bubba Wallace, in winning that race, he won that race. He had to hold off arguably one of the best oval drivers in a stock car of the last quarter century in Kyle Larson at a race in a place that Kyle Larson knows as well as anybody. And Bubba Wallace, trying to conserve fuel and juggling all of those things going into overtime, was able to get that win and hold off Kyle Larson legitimately. He won that race. And I thought to myself, there's your story. And then I thought about something Willie T. Ribbs said when he went to qualify in 1991. And Willie T. Ribbs, when he went out to qualify in 1991 for the Indy 500, not that long ago, relatively speaking. And when Willie T. Ribbs went out to qualify, he said that as he was leaving pit road, all the USAC workers were lined up, and there was an older black gentleman saluting Willie T. Ribbs who was crying. And Willie T. Ribbs said, I knew then, trying to become the first black driver to qualify for the Indy 500, I didn't want to look at him because I was afraid I would cry too, because I knew the magnitude of the moment. And so you can say to yourself, well, there it is. That's the moment. So, boom. That's the moment. That's the history, not yesterday. Except for this. The reason that man was crying was because if he was a USAC worker, he knew the history. He knew of Joey Ray, who began racing in 1947 and raced sprints and raced midgets and raced all of it, and ultimately got a chance to race in the American Automobile Association, the precursor to USAC, in 1949, and raced in 1949. But he knew that Joey Ray, who dreamed of running at the Indianapolis 500 early in his career because of sanctioning rules and the fact that he was black, would have been a challenge for him. And then from a sponsorship standpoint, even though Joey Ray had the opportunity to potentially have a ride for the Indianapolis 500 into the early 50s, was never able to cement the proper sponsorship to do so. Was that race related? I don't know. I wasn't there then, but I can make assumption, because that was only a quarter century removed from when black drivers in this country had to start the Colored Speedway Association, because they were not allowed to race in races with white drivers. So they had their own series that they started in 1924. And then you think about individuals like Charlie Wiggins, who was a mechanic that could fix anything, but was born in the wrong time in Evansville and an era as a black man where he couldn't work as a mechanic for a number of different opportunities. So he himself had to turn a wrench, even though he was one of the best of the era for black drivers, but didn't necessarily always get to compete with and what he was working on against the best. And yes, it is true that eventually Joey Ray got an opportunity within NASCAR, but by then Wendell Scott had already broken that color barrier in Jacksonville in 1963. So Bubba Wallace didn't do anything from a NASCAR standpoint. He didn't do anything from that standpoint of driver that was unique or new, unique maybe, but not new. But in terms of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the reason it should be pointed out and the reason why it was significant that Bubba Wallace won is because the Indianapolis Motor Speedway is the most historic venue in auto racing in the world, in my opinion, but certainly in North America. And you talk about the heritage and the history. And when you think about it, you think about men that wept just to see Willie T. Ribbs or later George Mack qualify there, because they know the history of how so many were denied that opportunity, not even by the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, but by the sanctioning bodies that were facilitating for racing there. And so the ultimate form of racing is competition. The ultimate backbone, I should say, of racing is competition. And competition means that getting there is one thing, but you always want to win. And so for Joey Ray and for Charlie Wiggins and for Wendell Scott and for Willie T. Ribbs and for others, for them to see not just that someone was able to break a barrier to qualify for the race, and that was not the case of a barrier for Bubba Wallace, but to actually win at that place and be able to then see that there is now a greater history than just a man weeping by watching another man qualify, because they can say that someone won the race that climbed that ultimate mountaintop. To me, it is that group, it is that sentiment that gets to determine whether or not it was significant. It is not I. And so once I thought about it and thought about the history of it, I realized that I was naive and I was arrogant to think that I got to determine whether or not that footnote in history was worth mentioning. And I think it is. And it also should be mentioned that Bubba Wallace won that race. He was not gifted that race. It was not a fluke circumstance. He dominated that race, and when it came down to it, he held off one of the best of his era and the best of many eras in Kyle Larson. So kudos and congratulations to it. All right, Three Dog Night. Tickets to give away for Get to Know Your Listener. Eddie, who do we have lined up?
Amanda.
Now, Amanda, you've called the program before, right? Please say no, because I'm hoping that means that we have above now female listener number 21. I'm assuming Amanda's a female, correct? Okay. Amanda, have you called the show before? Okay, bingo. So there we go. 22, baby. Amanda, you are female listener number 22. We have verification now. 22 female listeners. I love every single minute of it. Amanda, if I could real quickly, a little get to know your listener. Are you ready? I'd like to know this. Whose car did you borrow today that made you have to listen to this radio show? Oh, really? Does that mean, Amanda, that you might be, I'm just guessing here, an educator? And what grade do you teach, Amanda? High school? Okay, and so in what subject? Amanda, you're a saint. Is New Orleans your favorite football team? It should be because you're a saint, right? You're a Colts fan, aren't you? Okay. Amanda, you received your education yourself was received at what is the last school that you attended? Okay, for the Indiana Teachers College it was initially known, right? Okay. So Friday night, since this is your first week back at school right now, when do the kids come back? Okay, so you got a week of preparation where basically you guys all sit around and game plan everything, and you're getting used to getting up early is what you're doing, right? And then you come back and Monday things start for real, right? You're in training camp right now. 1 hour a day practice like the Colts. You're in training camp, right? Okay. Well, we would like for that training camp for you at the end of week 1 to include going to the Great Indiana State Fair to see Three Dog Night. So we will hook you up, Amanda, with one of the prize packs. I appreciate you listening to this program, even if it's only because you were in the car today on your way to work. But I always appreciate the fact that you are female listener number 22, Amanda. Now, Amanda, let me ask you, do you find me folksy? People tell me they find me folksy. Do you think I'm folksy?
Yes, and you and I are very similar. We have a lot of similar interests in the squirrels that just pop out of your mouth and get off subject. Yes, very much.
So you're also quirky, is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, best way to be.
All right, Amanda, I appreciate it. Enjoy the concert coming up on Friday, and thank you so much for listening, Eddie. That is female listener number 22, who is participant number 2 here in our game.
Let's go with Troy.
Troy, what's up?
Hey, what's going on, Jake?
Now, Troy, you sound very calm. Did you just take a nap?
I wish I could take a nap, but no.
Are you working today? You at school? What are you doing, Troy? Where do we find you?
Working, sir.
Working, okay. And what line of work are you in, Troy?
I'm in the quality safety belt.
Quality safety, okay. And since you're at work right now, are you like hiding under your desk so nobody knows that you're actually calling a radio show during work?
Yeah, you might call it that.
Troy, have you called the show before?
I have not.
Okay, first time caller to the program?
Yes, sir.
Obviously. I mean, that good deduction there by me. Okay, Troy, if you don't mind me asking, here's our get to know your listener that we're going to do real quick. The first question would be this. You graduated from high school in what year, Troy?
92.
92. So that would put you at, I'd assume you just celebrated a 50th birthday of late. That or you have one coming up, right?
Yeah, I had one in April.
Okay. And Troy, when you were in high school, the arch rival of your high school was which? So don't tell me your school, but tell me rather the one that you just couldn't stand.
Probably Southeastern.
Okay, so now I don't think Fisher's High School was around in 92. I'm going to guess that you went to Noblesville High School.
Nope, close though.
Carmel?
Westfield,
okay, the Shamrocks. And back then, Westfield, if I'm not mistaken, 28 kids total in the school back in 1992, right?
My class had 106.
106, and now it's like 700 probably, right?
Oh, easy.
Okay,
Yeah.
Troy, last question for you is this. If you could pick, if you were walking down the street and our friend Robin the Genie all of a sudden popped out of a bottle right in front of you, and Robin told you because he just was feeling like he was in a good mood that day, that he had, that's right, he says to you, he says, that is right, Troy. I have the ability to make any team win a championship in their next season. What team would you pick? Not based on the one that you think is going to win, but the one that Troy would most want to see win a championship. And because Robin the Genie is going to extend that offer, you would actually pick this team because it's the one that would make you the happiest. Any sport, any level, who do you pick?
Believe it or not, I'm going to have to go with the Colts.
The Colts. All right. So you'd rather see the Colts win the Super Bowl than see the Pacers win the NBA title?
That's a toss-up. I'd say I'm a little bit more of a Colts fan than a Pacer fan.
You have owned how many Colts jerseys in your lifetime, Troy? Give me the number of players that you have owned a jersey from.
I've owned at least 8.
8? Whoa. Okay, you got a Peyton Manning one, right?
Yes.
You got a Reggie Wayne?
Reggie Wayne.
You got a Marvin Harrison?
Harrison.
You got a Dwight Freeney?
No.
You got an Edge?
Yep.
You got an Andrew Luck?
Yes.
Still have it?
Still have it.
Didn't burn it?
Did not burn it.
Okay, good. And then lastly, I'm gonna say that there's an outlier here and a weird one here, in the fact that you went out and you bought the hype and you bought yourself either a Matt Ryan or a Carson Wentz jersey.
I did not do either.
Anthony Richardson?
Not yet.
Jonathan Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, Jonathan Taylor. There we go. I knew there had to be a current one. All right, Troy, I appreciate you participating in our game. Get to know your listener. We will get you the tickets and send you on your way, and say hi to Amanda while you're out there, by the way. Mike Chappell, by the way, joining us 14 from now. Mike Chappell coming up. Just about 10 minutes from now, talking about Colts camp and the events of the day, which, again, I mean, the one good news, I guess, bit of good news is it was not near as warm, and so far has not been yet today as was anticipated. I mean, I think tomorrow is prognosticated, or thought to be, prognosticate, probably the wrong word. Tomorrow is forecast to be pretty rough. Pretty rough tomorrow, just in terms of the somebody pointed this out to me, and I was unfamiliar with this beforehand. I guess, is there some deal with humidity and then all the corn is sweating? There's some sort of corn sweat phenomenon where it's so hot that even the stalks of corn are sweating, and that's creating even more heat. Do I have this correct? I was sent the article, and I didn't get a chance to, like, totally read through it. This apparently is a big deal in Missouri, or Missouri, as they say there. What is corn sweat, and how does it exacerbate heat waves? I find this fascinating. A phenomenon called corn sweat. And listen, we got a lot of corn here, right? Maybe not in Marion County. We're certainly surrounded by it. The scientific term of evapotranspiration, the natural process by which plants move water from the roots of the plant to the surface.
Photosynthesis.
Here's the thing.
Photosynthesis.
This is all developed from Ohio State, and in this article it says Ohio State University, not the Ohio State University. So I don't know how much we can actually take this into being legitimate.
My generation will get that reference that I just made, so it's okay.
I get it.
Okay.
The term refers to the amount of moisture, the humidity, and the plants that they take from the soil to cool off. So I guess basically what happens is plants are taking moisture out of the atmosphere and then spitting it back out and making things more humid. Is that right?
Ugh.
It's a positive thing for the crop, allowing it to cool off, but it's making things hotter. And then you also have, and I think this is taking place down in Florida, isn't there also a problem, and I'm not making light of this, I'm being serious, aren't there certain coastlines where people can get sick, and I don't mean like deathly ill, but you get like a cold or flu-like symptoms from algae?
It'd be news to me.
And aren't there like lakes where there's like algae content and you can't go out on the lake?
That would be news to me.
I think that's right, though. The red tide, is that what it's called, the red tide? I think that's right. But I'd like to know, now here's the thing. I know about sweet corn. What happens if sweet corn is the one sweating? Then what, do you get actually sweet corn sweat? Then that gets confusing, right? Or is it sweat of sweet corn? At the state fair, are they going to have sweated sweet corn that you can buy? Because that's one of the things, one of my favorite things to get is to walk around and get the big thing, the ear of corn, right? You got to get the ear of corn.
Some sweaty corn.
Yeah. So I guess they're taking moisture out and they're spitting it up. They're spitting it up is what they're doing. They're taking moisture and then they're spitting it back up and they're spitting it back in the atmosphere and it gets even more humid. But so far today, so we had rain. Was it overnight? Because when I got up this morning, there was water everywhere.
Well, when did you get up? Because it was thunderstorming until probably 9 o'clock.
Okay, I got up
on the south side here.
I got up right around 9. Got up, got ready, went to the Colts camp up in Grand Park in Westfield.
Yogi made
Jaylen
sure
Jones.
to tell me that it was storming outside.
What's that?
Yogi made sure to tell me it was storming outside.
Yeah, dogs don't like the storms.
Joey could care less.
Now, when I came in, that's a dog?
Yeah.
Or a cat?
Joey's the dog. Yogi's the dog. The cat is the child.
That's right. Okay. Now, when I came in today, so I got up, prepared, went to Colts camp, talked to Jaylen Jones. That interview available, podcast form, 1075thefan.com. Jaylen Jones, who was in that battle with, Justin Wally, notably, Juju Brents as well at the corner position. And he talked about how he feels like he's got a pretty good hold on the Lou Anarumo defense and that he feels like as a unit they do. But I did that interview at the end of camp because they're done. Colts camp today got done about 11:30. By 11:45 to 12 o'clock, it's empty. There's literally no one at Grand Park. The other day when I was there, I think I mentioned the guy mowing the lawn pulled a Forrest Gump when Jenny shows up. He just hopped off the tractor like midfield and just walked off. And I'm like, I don't know if his big chopper thing like just got too hot and overheated, or if he got overheated, or what happened. Now the rooster that lives over near Grand Park is still there, and he's doing his rooster stuff. And by that I mean simply the every
Jake,
morning.
Remember when you were doing the show in the morning with Kevin and there was the grass clippings situation?
Yes.
See, now that you're not there, we don't know who the culprit is. We don't know what animal left his
I believe we determined that was a coyote
territory.
That was coyote dung.
Okay.
Pretty sure. But the rooster was there, and I was there the other day, and that was it. So we did the interview with Jaylen Jones, and then I came back here to do the rest of the show in studio just because there's no one there, and it's obviously it was supposed to be very hot. And I think tomorrow I will be there for the totality. But what I find interesting is even in the outdoor, and it was not bad this morning because of, I think, that moisture, which now I'm assuming that it's a little soupy outside. But it wasn't terrible, and then I got my way back into studio, and when I walked in, Eddie made the comment that my cologne is too strong today, but I didn't put cologne on today. This is just part of the like 6-step, totally neurotic, compulsive showering that I do. I have 3 different soaps and then 3 different sometimes 2, but often 3 rinses that I use. And you're saying that I overdid it? Are you getting nauseous, lightheaded?
No, at first I was. It was like a headache that was coming on, and then next thing you know, you move over there, and it's just like, oh, okay, thank goodness.
So you're used to it now. But so this is my natural scent and aroma. You know what it is? It's the corn sweat. That's what it is. I'm like an ear of corn. It's just the corn sweat. That's what you're smelling. And it's sweet. I'm a sweet corn sweater. That's what I am. I'm a sweet corn sweater. I mean, it's just the way it works. Mike Chappell, by the way, was Mike Chappell, the fashionable Mike Chappell. The fashionable Mike Chappell. You know why he's the fashionable Mike Chappell, Eddie?
Well, he's up to date with all the styles, Jake.
Including what he was wearing today, fashionably speaking. He's going to join us next, and I'll tell you what it was. Apparently, this corn sweat deal, every plant does it. Jake, every plant on Earth pulls in water from the soil. It releases water vapor back into the atmosphere through the process of transpiration. It's part of the water cycle. Well, then what are we making a big deal about the corn sweating for? If everybody does it, why is corn getting a bad rap? They're just doing what everybody else does. If every other plant just jumped off a bridge, would corn go do it too? Also, do you happen to have the breaking news sounder? This just in from Connie. Jake just wanted you to know, I'm female listener number 23. I love it when you go off topic. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD at the age of 52. My husband swears that's why I love your show. Okay, well, I think that's a compliment. I will also add in, Connie, that while you claim to be number 23, here's the thing. Victor points out to me via DM, Jake, you were on female caller number 22 2 months ago. Amanda is actually female listener number 24. Sorry, but I keep score. So if we throw Connie into it, we're at 25, Eddie. 25.
You just lost me with all those numbers, Jake.
Female listener number 25 is what we're getting at.
Which one is that?
Connie's number 25. Amanda's now number 24, according to Victor, who is the official female listener tabulator of the show.
He's the official statistician of Querying Company.
That is correct. That is his job. The fashionable Mike Chappell joining us now on the always busy and available to be sponsored guest line from, not necessarily from Colts camp because they have wrapped up. Chap, I commented that today, of all days, you were more fashionable than most. Not that you're not always fashionable, but today in particular. Would you like to please reveal for the listening audience why I would have found you to be more fashionable today than most?
I wore the shirt that you purchased from Liverpool, the Cavern. So normally, and I mentioned this to you, normally I don't wear shirts like that if I didn't go there. I wouldn't wear like a Cheers shirt because I've never been to Cheers.
Right.
And that's one of my lifetime failings of not being there. But no, if you take the time and give me the receipt, and I'll pay you for it. But if you're going to do that, I've got to wear it. And even though it was hotter than hell today, I wore black. But no, it's all good. And I want people to realize you should thank me because it didn't rain. I was probably the only guy out there, media guy, that took a umbrella. It's like insurance. You don't need it if you have it. If you have it, you don't
right.
need it, whatever. So it's I'm the reason it didn't rain. So, but all it is another day. We stack another day. But I was wearing your shirt today because I wanted you to see that I follow through on things.
Well, I loved it, and I was happy to give. Obviously, you owe me nothing for it, chap. I'm glad you enjoyed the shirt. Looked good on you. Let's get to what looked good on the Colts today. You made note of the fact. It has been my observation to this point that I don't know that you would say that any of the two quarterbacks has jumped out over the other. But today, is it safe to say that one might have had a slightly better into practice than the other? Can you elaborate on what you saw?
I thought they both threw the ball well. In pads for the first time, they really worked more on inside running. I think I had Richardson 6 for 6, and Jones was 5 of 6 or. Let me look here. Jones was 3 of 4. And the one incompletion was Michael Pittman just dropped it. So very, very efficient day throwing. More than that, I thought with Richardson, that he just looked better. The ball came out quicker, and there was good zip on it. And so, but having said it was probably their best day, they've not exactly had 4 good days to compare it to. Prior to today, it's not been encouraging. Today was a day to build on, and I'm not dismissing Daniel Jones at all because he's here for a reason. But they need Richardson to continue to have good days because I'm in that camp that insists he needs to be the starter. And but I thought today was a really good day. Some really good throws. Boy, Richardson had one, a ball to Pittman down the left side. Pittman got behind Ward, and before the safety could come over, Richardson put the ball right there, it's what you want to see. And as long as these guys get better and have days similar to today, I'll feel a little bit better about this season.
When you say that Richardson threw the ball today quicker, do you mean he threw the ball quicker than Jones, or he threw the ball than previously Richardson had been throwing it?
When I say quicker, I mean it came out quicker, maybe more decisive. The back foot hits the ground and the ball comes out. I'm not really talking velocity, although I think.
Well,
Richardson
but I'm saying
throws
you're saying quicker than he has been, or quicker than Jones, or both.
probably both. Both. Jones, it seems like he's not quite as quick getting rid of the ball. You know, sometimes when the back foot hits and the ball seems to need to come out, it doesn't quite so much with Jones. And that's just my observation. But Richardson has a stronger arm. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. And it's funny how when a couple guys have asked Jones about well, you're working on pushing the ball down the field a little bit more. He sort of bristles at that, like, no, you know, I've been able to push the ball down the field, you know, before, meaning even with the Giants, but that's not been his history. But again, they both played well today. Again, with the fact that they were working a lot on running, which is really hard to tell what you're getting out of the run game with the naked eye, because while they're in pads and they're thumping, they're still not bringing guys to the ground. A couple times guys went down, but that's not the intent. So it's hard to tell how much push the line gets and how much of a hole was there when Jonathan Taylor got there, and how much, and you really can't get an impression on how the strength of a running back to break a tackle. So, but we'll see that in the preseason games. But I thought today, all in all, was a pretty good day, really for both sides.
Chappell, let me give you a statement. Mike Chappell, our guest, CBS 4 and WXAN, Fox 59. Of course, he has covered every Colts training camp since they came over from Baltimore. Let me make a statement, and then you tell me if you think there's validity to it, okay? The
Sure.
further along we go, the more I am convinced that if Daniel Jones is the starter week 1, it's probably going to be less because Daniel Jones won the job and rather because Anthony Richardson lost it.
I think that's true. I really do. In some ways, I came into camp thinking this had to be like the champions you got to knock him out. It's not going to be a decision type of thing. I think this will be more about how Richardson plays, and if it's just, you know, no question that Jones had a better camp, then you go with him. But I think if this is 40-60, that Richardson was 40% and Jones, I still think you go with Richardson. You just have to. The ceiling, this team with Richardson, the ceiling is so much higher. It just is, and maybe the floor is a little better with Jones. You kind of know what you're going to get. I don't think you're going to get the really big chunk plays in the pass game, but you'll probably get more efficiency. But yeah, I do think that if it's not Richardson, it's because of what he didn't do than what with Richardson. And again, those preseason games may tell us, will tell us a ton, because at some point in camp, you know, starting with next week with the Baltimore scrimmage or joint practice and in the game, you'll tell these guys are going to play. They're going to. We haven't really talked to Shane about how he's breaking up reps in a game, whether one guy gets a chunk the first game and the next guy the next game against the Packers. I don't know. Boy, and I would like to think after 2 preseason games, you've got a really, really good idea on who your starter is, and then we'll see what they do in the last preseason game. But it's interesting, and we've talked about this. As much as it's critical to have competition at positions, cornerback competition is really, really good. Defensive line, offensive line. I've never thought it's a good thing to have open competition at quarterback. I just don't. I want to know who my guy is. This is probably the first time since goodness Peyton, the 2011 season when Peyton was messed up with his neck, that they've had legit competition. I don't consider Richardson's first year serious competition. in their heads they knew what they were going to do, and now Chris tells us that maybe it was wrong to do it that way, but going into it, it was going to be Richardson, barring him, just falling flat. So I've never thought competition at quarterback is a good thing, and I still don't.
Chap, each year at a training camp, one of two things happens, sometimes both. A player emerges where you say, oh, wow, they might have found something here. This guy's playing really well, or this guy really has improved. And then there's also somebody that you go, gosh, you know what? I haven't seen that guy a lot, and maybe the sands of the hourglass are starting to run on him because I thought we'd see something and it hadn't happened yet. Give me a guy in either of those scenarios.
The guy that I wanted to see more from is A.D. Mitchell. And right now, he's sort of an easy guy to pile on because he had such an uneven rookie season, and that's probably being generous. I think he's had too many drops. Oh, gosh, 4, 5, I don't know, 4. And you want to see more, and that's in limited reps with the starters, with the first and second teams. And he's got so much talent, and he's got a great position coach in Reggie Wayne. But right now, it's not been a good camp for A.D. Mitchell. Guy that's kind of jumped out. Of course, Justin Whaley, we've all been talking about, the third-round pick, has been working with the first team, second teams. One guy I'm going to keep an eye on, tight ends that aren't named Tyler Warren. I think Will Mallory's had a pretty good training camp. They need another tight end to step up. I think Mo Ali Cox makes this roster. He's sort of a third tackle in the offense. I think Mallory's played pretty well, and DJ Giddens, the rookie running back, he's got some pop to him. So other than that, not a lot of guys I think have disappointed. Other than doggone, A.D. Mitchell needs to sort of get his game going.
Mike, if it doesn't happen, is A.D. Mitchell in jeopardy? And I know it's early.
No. Oh, heavens, no. There's too much talent there. And again, Reggie Wayne, he didn't emerge until his third season. Part of that is because Peyton had this thing going with Marvin, and that's who he threw to. But no, it's way too. Again, go back and look at Alec Pierce. There was a lot of criticism about Alec Pierce going into year 2, and it was an okay year. And then this past year, he just took off. So they're not anywhere near like, boy, is he going to make this roster? It's just that they need that fourth guy, and he's that guy right now. And they just need him to play better because he's got all the talent in the world. I don't know what it is with drop passes. I don't know. I'm not out there catching him, but he's the one that's really had trouble sustaining good practices. But he's not even remotely close to, boy, I hope he makes the roster. No, he's way too talented for that, and it's way too soon for that kind of talk on a second-round draft pick.
Okay, when you look at the receiver position, let's say, Mitchell, you talk about they need a fourth receiver. I mean, obviously you've got Pittman, you've got Pierce, you've got Downs. Warren is going to be a guy that's active in the passing game. Maybe even Mallory, because I like the fact that I think Mallory can also bring you a little bit of that like slot-type receiver stuff. But let's just say that A.D. Mitchell, they still got to give him more time, and maybe they think that he's got to go the Anthony Richardson plan of, we're going to make him sit and watch a few games. Who then is behind him in that receiver depth chart that maybe is of intrigue, if any?
Well, of intrigue, I mean, Ashton Doolin. Remember how
I do like Ashton Doolin.
They had Zach Pascal all those years, and before you knew it, he was in November. He was making plays because guys were hurt. Ashton Doolin's kind of like that guy, and they've got Anthony Gould, who right now is the main kick guy, but he's made some really good catches. I mean, he's had a good camp, DJ Montgomery type of thing, but if everybody stays healthy, which is kind of risky with the way the game is, the fourth and fifth guy are going to play some. That's why I say they really need Mitchell to be that guy because he's going to get his reps when the time comes. But if not, again with a Gould and a Doolin, and like you said, the fact that you got Tyler Warren, he's going to take some throws away, some targets away as well. But you still need depth. I like the receiver depth, I really do, and I would really like it if Mitchell sort of gets his head on straight and starts having a stronger camp. And it's still early. It's 5 days. But having said that, it goes quickly. It just does. Before you know it, that September is going to be here, and they're going to be playing against Miami, and then it's for real. And then for as long as the season is, you only play 17 games. So, but Mitchell's the one that, and Reggie will get him turned around. If Reggie can't turn him around, then he can't be turned around. I have that much trust in Reggie as a coach. So, like I say, I don't want to be the guy piling on Mitchell too much. But right now he's not giving us much reason to talk good about him, although it's still early. But, he's got to get things going.
By the way, here's my dark horse at receiver. I'm all in on and we did this last year. Eddie, who was the guy last year that I was all in on, and then he got cut?
Something Slukwa.
I think that's right. I'm all in on Landon Parker. Who is a 25-year-old rookie out of Troy, mostly because he's got hair like Jeff Spicoli.
Derek Slykwa.
That's who it was a year ago.
Do any of your long shots ever pay off or not?
That's a great question. Landon Parker hit my radar about 5 minutes ago, so I haven't done a lot of due diligence here. Have been in my life. Drew Haddad was a long shot of mine for several years in a row, and that never panned out, right? So, yeah.
He had the. I'm thinking I'm getting Drew Haddad. Didn't he have the big the kick return? Tampa.
No, that's
right?
Brad Pyatt.
Brad Pyatt. Okay. Same guy, sort of.
Correct. Same guy. Correct. That is correct. Exact same guy. Looks like he lives at Planet Fitness, and then all of a sudden just showed up, and yeah, that's right.
Right. So yeah, but it is kind of cool watching some of these guys, and whenever you have to look at the roster to kind of say who is that. But again, 5 days down, and like nine more practices to go.
Chap, how has Shane Steichen changed as a coach in this camp? I mean, whether it be the way he's dealt with media, whether it be the way that you see them doing drills, any way, shape, or form, do you see anything about him that shows, not that it's necessary, but just shows evolution as a coach?
There's probably something, and I've not noticed it. He's just all ball. I mean, no nonsense, all ball. His sessions with the media haven't changed a ton, although he's a little more open to back and forth with the media, just having a good time. But then when it comes to asking serious questions, you still don't get a ton because he's all ball. It's always funny because we get about 4 minutes into it, and then somebody asks about, what about this guy? And he's a baller. He's a pro. And somebody else. So you don't get a lot of insight from him on individual players. There's probably something in camp. They said they're going to have a more physical camp. It was more today. They're still not that they're knocking each other into next week. He's more into. He really wants to focus on the sudden change where you get an interception. He had a play the other day where he threw the interception to Cam Bynum, and then the defense returns it, and then Bynum orchestrates this little roll your boat with about 10 defensive players. So that he lets them have a good time like that, but he's still all ball. I don't know that I've seen a lot of change in structure of practices. It's a little different when you've got to switch your quarterbacks up, and he's done that with, they've had probably right at the exact same number of reps. So that's a little different when you have to do that. But I don't know that there's been a noticeable change in how he does things and how he approaches things, how he treats his players, because I think he's very true to himself, which I think by and large is a good thing.
Chap, I saw Mike Chappell's our guest, CBS 4 and WXAN Fox 59. I saw that the Chargers just inked their left tackle, Rashawn Slater, to a 4-year, and I think 114 was the number. I mean, a massive contract. Yep. I don't know that Bernard Ryman goes that level number, but I was surprised. I don't know if you heard what Bernard Ryman had to say when I interviewed him at the beginning of the week. For those that didn't know, Bernard Ryman, when I had him on, said that he and the Colts, and I'm paraphrasing, that they are not on the same page and that they are a ways away. And I said, do you mean in terms of when they want to get a deal done? And he insinuated, no, the numbers are not where we want to be. Were you surprised by that? And what do you make of, if anything, the Chargers signing a tackle to a 4-year deal at 114, how that could impact the Colts?
Well, Bernie's not getting 114 unless it's over like 8 years. So, no, and I expect Bernie to get 20, 23 million. I think the top 10 or 12 left tackles are getting at least 20 million. And he'll get more than 20 because he'll get closer to 23 on average. And maybe the numbers that they're not there yet on is the guaranteed money. If I'm a player, you can make the average whatever you want. Give me my guarantee. So I can't remember what the guarantee was on Slater. Was it 90 million? It was huge.
Let's see, a base of 28.5 million and 92 million guaranteed.
Yeah. See, that's the guarantee is all that matters. You can have, monster stuff in the last couple of years, and then it goes away when they cut you. So they'll probably get it done before the season. I don't know. I maybe because, I think with a lot of these guys, they've got 6'8" players, frontline players, Alec Pierce, Kwity Paye, and Daniel Jones, who are in the final year of their contract. But maybe the Irsay daughters want to wait and see how the season goes before they put 3-4 year contracts on guys. Having said that, you've got to resign Bernard Ryman. You need a left tackle. He's young. He's growing in the position. He's playing at a top, 10 level as a left tackle. And I don't care who the GM is next year. I don't care who the coach is. Bernard Ryman needs to be your left tackle. I hope it's Chris Ballard. I hope it's Shane Steichen, but he's going to get paid. Whether they get it done before the season starts, boy, it didn't really sound like it, although things can change very quickly. But of all those guys, Bernie will get his. It'll be 23 and change. How easy it is for me to say that when it's not my money. And the thing about when Slater signs 28.5, whatever it is, Bernie's not going to approach that. But when those guys sign, it pulls everybody else up a level. Like with Jerry Jones waiting to sign Micah Parsons. What an idiot! Because everybody signs and it just pulls the number up higher instead of you setting the market. So he'll get his. Whether it gets done prior to the season, I really don't know.
Look, I thought it was smart of Bernard Ryman, though, to answer it the way he did. I mean, so many, Alec Pierce, when I asked him the same thing, and I don't blame Alec Pierce, but his answer was, we'll let those things play itself out.
Right.
By Ryman coming out and saying, look, we're not close, and I'm not sure they value, I'm paraphrasing, but he essentially said, I know the importance of my position. We don't know yet whether the team knows that. To me,
the team knows.
It's a smart Yeah, but it's a smart play, right? I mean, honestly, throw that out there is a smart play.
No question. And again, and I'm not saying the Colts have waited, but when other guys at that position sign for big numbers, it impacts yours. They got Pittman done. Was it 2 years ago? The years past, and then all the receivers started signing the great numbers. So they got Pitt at a pretty good number. So I realize you got your own numbers you want to stay with, but the market's what the market is, and it's only going to get more expensive to re-sign these guys.
Mike Chappell, CBS 4 WXAN, Fox 59. Camp resumes again tomorrow. 10 o'clock in the morning, everything underway. Going to be a hot one tomorrow. But, Chap, do not wear a black T-shirt tomorrow. Heat index well over 100.
I'll wear gray tomorrow. How about that?
All right, sounds good. Appreciate the time as always.
If I wear white, then I'll drop something on my shirt, and I'll look like a a complete slob.
I'm wearing a white T-shirt today just because it was supposed to be hot, and it's a T-shirt I didn't even know I had, and I'm like, well, this looks thin, and it's white, so it's supposed to be, light. And yes, you are correct. I'm now going to go probably eat strawberries and make a mistake.
There you go.
All right, Chap, appreciate it as always.
Be well, guys. Again, thanks
right.
for the shirt.
Yep, my pleasure. Mike Chappell joining us on the program. All right, we'll come back. We've got more tickets to give away, do we not, Eddie?
We do.
That would be the Dropkick Murphys, is that right?
That is right.
And that show is where?
That is at the Everwise Amphitheater at the White River State Park next Tuesday.
Fabulous facility, by the way. Dropkick Murphys are outstanding. That will be a great show. We'll do the ticket giveaway between now and when we hand it off to John, which we will do just about 30 minutes from now. You know, one of the things I'm curious about, Eddie, that I just realized. When I'm in the studio here, as we got tickets to give away for Dropkick Murphys, which we'll do, so I put on the headsets, right? Well, unless we've got a guest on, like right now, why am I wearing headsets?
I don't know why you're wearing a headset, Jake.
It's just the two of us, right?
Yep. Two bros just hanging out, having a blast.
Yeah. So if I'm just talking to you, I'm like, wait a minute. Although I guess it's, if something goes awry, do I need to hear it? Or all of a sudden, if I don't hear myself talking? Because no one, I'll tell you another thing that's interesting. Now, are you ready for a brain teaser here?
Sure.
This is a 2:38 in the morning brain drop.
Okay. Let's see if it's worthy of the sounder.
People oftentimes hate hearing their own voice, correct?
Oh, yes, without question. I hate hearing my own voice.
And the reason that you hate hearing your own voice is because it sounds different to when you hear it on tape, you're like, wait, is that really what I sound like? And the reason being because it has to do with when you speak, you don't hear it the same. It has something to do with like the reverberation or some other such thing, right? In terms of your ear hearing it. But when I speak and I'm wearing these headsets, what I'm hearing in the headsets is what is going out being broadcast, right? So it is not authentically the sound that if I was just sitting in a room by myself and I was talking without headsets, my ears are hearing what my mouth is putting out there, right?
By the way, why do you use the plural form of headset?
What's that?
Why do you use the plural form of headset when it's just one?
Another excellent question. Because I think it's two, right? This is a set and this is a set. You got the left ear and the right ear.
A set would be two. If you had one left ear and one right ear, that's singular.
No, you have so you're saying the word set means plural, right? So in other words, you're saying I'm being redundant in my, it's redundantly plural is what you're getting at, right?
Yeah.
Good question. You mean, now, am I the only one that says headsets, or do a lot of people say headsets, right?
I usually hear people say like headphones, earbuds.
Yeah. Maybe that's why, because you just go off of that, right?
Yeah.
But at any rate, when I'm talking, and I'll use headset, okay? When I'm talking, what I'm hearing in my headset is what is being broadcast over the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But when I'm in the car and I hear my voice on a commercial that's being broadcast over the radio, I hate it. But yet, when I'm hearing it right now, it sounds like what I naturally hear. Why am I not hearing a different version of my voice in the headset than what I hear if I was not wearing the headset? You see what I'm saying? Do you understand where I'm going with that?
I do.
Does that not sound odd? Does that not seem odd?
I don't think so. I hear myself and I'm like, I sound like that?
Right.
What?
But right now, when you're listening to what's being broadcast, going through the board, you still hear it the same. You don't hear the difference. But if I were to go back as soon as we're done talking and listen to this segment on tape, I would be like, oh my gosh, that's what I sound like. But what I'm hearing is a recorded version of what's being sent into my headset. So why can I not hear it now? That probably makes no sense whatsoever. Should we just give tickets away to move on from
Please.
the conundrum that I've now proposed?
Please.
239-1070 is the telephone number. We're going to do this actually in the form of show trivia, Eddie, which we have done from time to time.
Good.
It's a
I'm
wildly
glad.
popular game. Huh?
I'm glad. I was going to suggest trivia because this is a ticket giveaway that we need to,
We have tickets for the Dropkick Murphys. This concert is going to be taking place at the Efferwise Amphitheater, the Lawn at White River, which is a fabulous venue. It is such a cool venue because it is quaint. I looked it up when we were there the other day. I think with the lawn seating, it seats a total of 8,000. But you are right there. I mean, it's an intimate venue. The weather is going to be fabulous. The new, and I say new, since the time that it opened now, the renovations they've done with the kind of covering over the seating area of it, all of it is fantastic. And then you throw in the fact that the food that's there, the drinks, all of it. Going to be a great night to see the Dropkick Murphys, who I think is a fantastic band. We have callers who have lined up for this at 239-1070. Who are we going to go with here first, Eddie?
Peter.
Hi, Peter. How are you?
I'm great, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. Are you outside right now, Peter?
Actually, I'm driving home from the golf course.
Please, Peter, I'm asking you, be careful. Hands at 10 and 2, if you could. What you played which golf course today, Peter?
Twin Bridges in Danville.
Twin Bridges in Danville. Okay, now, Peter, how long have you been golfing?
Oh, I don't know, 50 years.
Okay, I'm going to guess that you just shot a 91.
82.
Wow, Peter, that's impressive. What's the best round you've ever had?
73.
Really? That's really impressive. I was guessing. Now, let me ask you this, Peter. Is it true that as you get older, your golf game wanes?
Absolutely.
What age? Around what age does that really start to show itself?
55.
Okay. So I just started. So I have 3 years of prime, and then I'm done?
No, you got plenty. You seem to be in pretty good shape.
Really? Well, thank you, Peter. That's nice of you to say. All right, Peter, we're going to play a little show trivia. Eddie, would you like to come up with a question, or would you like for myself to do so?
You got it.
Peter, how long have you listened to this program?
Today or?
In general.
Been on the air. Oh, since Query & Company was formed.
Okay, and you find yourself, is that because the radio knob is broken, or you actually find that the program meets your tastes?
No, you have a different spin on sports talk radio, so it gives a different perspective listening to your perspective.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, and I would say, look, sometimes 15% of the time you actually agree with me, right?
12 to 15, yeah.
All right. Well, okay. Eddie, would you like to ask a question? Did you say, or you want me to ask a question?
You.
Okay, I will ask the question. The reason we do it this way, Peter, is because we want to try to find out whether or not people are legitimately listeners of the program, or if they just all of a sudden are trying to win tickets. You get these people that they're like professional radio players of games. Okay, they get notification. So here's the question. Peter, I'm basically giving these tickets to you, okay? I'm giving them away with this. It's so easy, okay? And it's going to be a fabulous night out at the Efferwise Amphitheater for the Dropkick Murphys. But here's your question. Recently, Peter, since we're talking about concerts, I have in the last couple of weeks gone to 2 different concerts. One is at the Lawn. The other, I went overseas to see a band. Can you tell me either of the 2 concerts that I have mentioned on this radio show that I went to?
Oh my God! Yes, the one that you went to see in Europe.
Okay, here you go, Peter. If you were today, was it hot when you were out there golfing?
Well, yeah, it's hotter than hell.
Okay. Okay. So, Peter, if that were the situation and you were in the Mojave and you were walking along and you're like, I just need something to drink because I'm dying, and you looked up and all of a sudden in the middle of the Mojave, you just saw this fountain, this water that was right there, that would be called what? Which is the name of the band that I went to see. Now, the other band I went to see, Peter, the other band that I went to see is a Canadian band that kind of a, I wouldn't say a folk band. They're a rock band, but they kind of have fun with it, and they do a number of covers. And the name of the band is something that you would see, for example, like in neon lights in a tawdry part of town. And when I told Shannon that I was going, I said, yeah, my cousin and I are going to go see this. And she's like, you're going to go see what? And I go, no, the band. We're not going to a club, a bar to see that. We're not going to, like, say, the Red Garter to see that. We're going to see the band by the name of that. And she's like, oh, okay, I get it. Now,
Oh my God!
I have another trivia question if we want to.
Peter, are you going 0 for 2 here? At least you shot an 82 today. All right, Eddie, go ahead. Eddie's got one for you. Hang on.
What's the name of the genie?
Excellent question. On the program, we have the genie that occasionally pops in. Peter, do you know the genie's name?
Now, I get it on a multiple guess, but that's the best I could do.
Peter, you're lying. You thought you called in Bob and Tom, didn't you?
No.
All right, last one, Peter. Last one, because I'm trying my hardest here. You ready? I'm trying my hardest. Okay?
Right on, brother. I appreciate it.
All right, let me ask you this one. Can you tell me either where I attended high school or any of the 5 colleges I attended?
Yeah, you went to North Central, and then you went to IU, and you graduated just not too long ago.
All right, Peter, there we go. You've redeemed yourself, Peter. You forgot
and
Oasis.
You with algebra.
Yes, Peter, yes. All right. Peter, you've redeemed yourself. You forgot Oasis, you forgot Bare Naked Ladies, and it is Robin the Genie. But nonetheless, you're on your way. I appreciate it. We'll come back. We'll put kind of a tie on everything, and we'll hand it off to John next. Down to check something on an email and looked up, and Eddie was gone, and Nathaniel, don't call me Atticus Finch, is suddenly in here.
I think he quit.
What,
Looked to me and said, "I'm done." He walked out.
You know, that's there was one time in this building years ago, when I'm not going to say any names, but there was on one of the other stations, our sister stations, many, many moons ago. I mean, I'm talking 30 plus years ago, probably 30 years ago. There was a radio host that was a popular radio host who went on to fairly big things after working at the radio station, that in the middle of a shift got into some sort of a disagreement, or I don't know whether it was a disagreement of just show layout or whatever else. And the producer just said, that's it, I quit, and just got up and walked out. And the host was like, excuse me, like, you got to come back in here and finish the show. And it's like, no, man. And I'm the first to admit I would be, if you guys really did get up and just walk out, I would be complete. I know how to do two things. I know how to touch the button that turns on the microphone, and I know how to talk, and that's it. I don't know how to assemble things. I don't know how to put things together. I am a moron when it comes to that stuff. I have absolutely zero mechanical inclination in any way, shape, or form. I'd love to, but my brain just does not work that way. As you heard Peter say, I had problems with algebra. There's no truer words have ever been said on this radio station. Colts camp earlier today, to recap what took place. I got there. Admittedly, it was cooler today than I think it was expected to be, which is good. Tomorrow, I think, is going to be super hot. And hopefully we will have a player again tomorrow as well. The Colts have done a good job with that and helping out. And Jaylen Jones joined today. That is up on the podcast form. Jaylen Jones, who is entering year number 3, talked about with Justin Whaley, that battle at the corner position. And it's interesting when he says, we're all just out there trying to get better as a team. And there's probably some truth to that. But guys also naturally are competitors, and they know who stands in the way of each in terms of position battles. I get all that. But in terms of the on-field activity, it's really, for me, it's hard. I'm not going to lie. It's hard to really break down who stands out and who looks good because you just don't know what the goals are of each respective drill. A guy makes a diving, amazing one-handed catch, okay, that was pretty prolific. But in terms of, this lineman, I'll give – the coaches and this, Chris Ballard, a lot of credit, like to know and have the ability nuanced to their eye to see something in camp between one interior lineman versus another of a particular move they make. All things are not created equal. What happens if Nathaniel and I are both vying for the same offensive line position, and when I line up for rotation, I'm up against DeForest Buckner, and then Nathaniel lines up and he's up against, a rookie out of Troy? Can you really adequately judge which of the two of us in that situation is doing you're looking, I presume, at how quickly they're able to swivel their hips, move their feet, get into position, get into stance, regardless of who's on the other side of it. With all of that said, there's still, I think, A.D. Mitchell is the one that is of the best or the biggest enigma at this point because, A.D. Mitchell came out of the draft or came out into the draft, and there was question about his commitment. There was definitely, he was one of those that, you hear this a lot. Well, if he has the skill or the talent or the intrigue to be a top 20 pick, but he falls to round 2. Well, why does he fall? Or round 3, round 4 with different guys. Why do they fall? And there also comes a point where in the draft, at a certain level, you say, okay, now you're into the it's all gravy zone. You draft a guy in round 6, round 7, Robert Mathis, and he pans out, it's all gravy. If they don't pan out at that, Gilbert Gardner, he was actually higher up, so that was a bad example. But then you say, okay, that was a bad swing and a miss. Does anybody really think a swing and a miss on round 7? Tony Hugo was a swing and a miss because they moved up to get him, and it didn't work out. But A.D. Mitchell, as we talked about earlier with Mike Chappell, another interview that will be up on the podcast page, with everyone's waiting for A.D. Mitchell to show something. And the longer that you go and have to wait, then the more you have to factor in or take into account or consider what the word and the narrative and the warning on him was when you got him. I'm not saying that the guy gets released, but at what point do you say to yourself, we've got to start seeing something here? Because we're just not seeing anything. And show me something. And I think that's, again, we're still early even in camp, and we're early in his career for sure. I mean, we are still early in his career. But it is true when Chap talks about how Reggie Wayne took a while to get going, but even still, Reggie Wayne was getting reps where he was on the field on the regularity, and they were throwing to him. It wasn't like he was, any lack of production for Reggie Wayne in the get-go or the early part of his career in Indianapolis certainly was not due to lack of opportunity. A.D. Mitchell, it's almost becoming like lack of opportunity because they've got to get him out there. I mean, they've got to get him out on the field in game situations and get him involved to the point where he's opening. And maybe that opens up Alec Pierce even more. Maybe, maybe Tyler Warren opens that up. But Pierce is another one that we were starting to have that conversation. But with Pierce, it almost felt like they were not able to get him the ball. It wasn't because Alec Pierce wasn't on the field or wasn't putting in the time. It does feel like A.D. Mitchell, you just wonder if he's not putting in the time. And that's the thing that you wonder about. Now, Nathaniel, we've mentioned it before, your NFL team, you grew up as a Broncos fan, correct?
That's right. I'm from Denver.
And you moved here at what age?
Pretty young, 3 or 4, I don't know.
But still, I mean,
Yeah.
I get it. So you still have family out there?
Yes, I do.
Have you been to a game out there?
I went to the Colts game last winter.
What was the weather like?
It was beautiful, man. It was 50 degrees and sunny in December.
How often do you go back to Denver?
Not very often, once every couple of years.
So I'm going in October to see Paul McCartney. Now, will that be a complete waste of – because Paul McCartney, I think, at this point, he just comes up and sings 2 notes and then has everybody else sing the rest, right? But it's Paul McCartney, right?
Yeah, you got to do it.
I mean, it's Paul McCartney. So, but that's Coors Field, not Invesco. I saw Guns N' Roses at Invesco. Invesco at Mile High, right?
Yeah.
And then it's got that horse up at the top that's demonic, right?
That's right.
Not unlike the one at the airport. You know the airport's
The
haunted.
airport. Oh, yeah, big time.
Yeah, it's the Illuminati, right?
Yep.
Isn't there all kinds of weird stuff at the airport there? Isn't that the rumor?
Yeah, and I think there's something with the runways kind of form a symbol that we're not allowed to form anymore these days. It's bad.
Yeah, that's crazy. And like a bunch of people died when they were developing it, right?
Yeah.
Allegedly.
Big time.
John is here. Got on his shirt, Indy versus
man.
everybody.
What a great job last week Nathaniel did.
Yeah,
well done.
Of course.
I'm good
Where'd
at hiding
Eddie
my
go?
mistakes.
Nathaniel is thorough. Eddie just left.
He
We think
quit, I think.
Huh?
He got up and left. He said, I'm
Did he
done.
really? Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
We're proud of Eddie's initiatives. John, you had a busy week.
I had a busy week. Did a little pre-hosting because Greg Straw. That's a good
That
name.
works.
He should go by that. Greg Straw was stuck between Iceland and Indy, which is not a Christopher Cross song.
That's right. If he was stuck between Iceland and Indy, do we know what airport was he stuck in?
He
Do we know?
was stuck overnight in Newark and then went from Newark to Dulles and got held up there. The dude still came in halfway through the time I was in here.
I'd just drive it from Newark. Screw it.
So he was still Greg Straw.
Rent the car and drive it.
Nah, working hard at it. So a pretty interesting racing weekend, right?
It was, indeed.
Is anybody upset about the lack of attendance there, or does it just not matter anymore? Not matter?
I think here's the thing. You always get this, and because I was at the IndyCar side of it, so I didn't see the attendance, but they said 60. Problem is 60 there looks like nothing, right?
Yeah, right.
I heard, did Bubba Wallace, did his burnout go over the bricks? Because I thought I heard
not.
Okay. I mean, that's good because that's the one thing that is requested. But and then I was at Colts camp earlier today, had
Yes.
Jaylen Jones. Tomorrow's going to be an inferno out there.
It is. You're going to have fun out there the entire day. I have yet to be out there.
You're out there Thursday, right?
Am I?
I need to
Sweet,
pick up,
I'm out
I need to
there
pick up your
Thursday.
credential for you so that you can get out there. What's on the big show today?
We're going to go Lance McAllister, big one, Cincinnati, and we'll talk to Stephen Holder, who was up there with you in the Inferno.
He was indeed. It is funny, John, 1 hour practices. I mean, what a life, right? We need to come up with the RHPA, the Radio Host Players Association.
There's
And
no
then
doubt.
Just tell them, like, you know what, we're doing 20 minutes a day.
Yeah,
20 minutes a
exactly.
day, and we get days off on Wednesday, right?
Saturday night was fun, though. Saturday night JMV Takeover was great. You're going to be at the State Fair later on this week to open
I'm
it
there
up.
Friday. Yep.
At the
Love
Dairy
it.
Bar. I'm going to do a live JMV Takeover on the 9th in the tap room out there on a Saturday night.
Tap room's awesome also.
Yes.
All right, John's up next. We'll be back with you noon tomorrow. I thank you for listening to Query & Company.